Welcome, everybody, to MogTalk episode 172. Today is July 13th, 2019. If you guys haven't watched MogTalk before, it's a show based around the Final Fantasy XIV community, discussing everything from Savage Raiding to Chocobo Racing. Before we get started, I want you guys to be introduced to who we have on the show, so we're not just all sitting here awkwardly. You guys kind of have an idea who sounds like what. So I'm going to go clockwise here with Drak starting. Drak, tell everybody who you are.
Drak Gamestein, primarily YouTube. You can check out my raid group's antics and stuff through the Extreme Trials and all the highlights there. That's what we predominantly do, and then we stream, and I think that's pretty much it.
Okay. All right. Good enough. And then Merri, tell everybody who you are.
It's me, Mr. Gunbreaker.
I love your picture, dude. I love it.
Thanks.
It actually blends really well together.
Yeah.
Did you do it yourself?
No, one of my mods did it for me.
Jeez, dude.
Yeah.
You need to talk to them about some stuff.
Yeah, I stream on Twitch and do YouTube stuff.
Okay. All right. And finally, we have Mr. Tate here. Tell everybody who you are, dude.
My name's Tate, and I'm just part of Nest. That's it.
Okay. Good enough. Just part of Ness here. You have other raid group, don't you?
Yeah, I've got my hardcore raid group.
Okay.
That I'll be doing week 1 prog with. Still don't know what I'm playing yet because wow, am I disappointed in some stuff.
Well, it's not that show today.
Maybe another time.
So for all you guys tuning in, we are going to be talking about the story today. If you guys do want to avoid spoilers, you don't want to be here because we don't give a crap about spoiling anything today. We want to talk about it. I've had it on my mind for the last 2 weeks, just about to burst, wanting to have a conversation with other people about what we just all experienced, and this is the platform we're going to do it on. I hope that you guys, if you want to talk about it as well, it's a safe place to spoil the shit out of the story, so go ahead and do it in chat. I don't care. And before we get started, I feel like I want to ask you guys just a real quick question here. How about those last 2 weeks, man? How are you guys feeling after this expansion 2 weeks after the fact?
Overwhelmed.
Exhausted.
There's a lot.
Jesus.
I haven't gotten enough of the game. Like I wake up, I log on, and I haven't felt that way about Final Fantasy in a while.
Yep.
Not since A Realm Reborn for me, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird. Like I doing Heavensward and doing Stormblood. Yeah, I was kind of excited for it, but this is just different. It feels like I'm like, this is almost a new. It feels like I'm playing a new MMO, and I'm excited about that new MMO almost.
Yeah.
Even though it isn't.
I'd agree with that.
Jeez, it was so crazy. I mean, the story. Everybody said the story was the best story that they've seen in almost any RPG out there. It's like top 10, which is kind of strange. Because I was expecting, a decent story and everything else. Because there's a really good lore and everything else behind Final Fantasy XIV, but I just wasn't expecting this. It kind of caught me off guard. It did it a little. What was there? What made the Final Fantasy XIV story for Shadowbringers so good? Why are we so amazed by it?
So many things. I think first off, it was about us. We were the main character for once. Like, we've always been the main character. We've always been the protagonist, but like we've always been just kind of a tool in other people's storylines.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this time it's actually revolves around a lot of what we are doing and what we want to do.
Mm-hmm. Drak?
That's basically what I was going to say too.
Okay.
Is that you really felt a lot more connected to your own character because you're going through something, or that you're actually more in peril. You're not just kind of the OP get out of jail free card that everybody's been kind of using us as.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a thing. Like everybody always says, oh, we rely on you too much, and then they go ahead and rely on you again for everything right after. It's like they say it, but it's empty. Like they don't really mean it. Mm-hmm. They're like, oh, we feel so bad, but we're gonna do it anyway. Mm-hmm. But this time it's like people were actually like, there was no clear answer. Mm-hmm. There was no just get out of jail free card with the plight that we were in. We really had to like come to terms with what was going on with us as a character. And I think that was pretty substantial as far as like what, in comparison to what we've had before.
Yeah.
I think.
No, and I think a lot of things kind of revolve around that too, because we were experiencing things with, this other warrior of darkness that's kind of just our ghost following us around and talking to us a little bit. We had personal, we knew we weren't going to explode and die of light or whatever else, but you still have that slow progression of, hey, there's something bad happening with what we're doing to you. We need to care about it. You can see that other characters having conflict with that. And I think, again, that spotlight on you, right?
Yep.
So, Merri, I'm going to ask you this. Going through every expansion that Final Fantasy XIV has had, what is that really the key difference between the other expansions? Like, you go into it and they're like, oh, come solve this issue, and it's not really about you, and that's why you didn't care about it as much as compared to here?
So I think one of the biggest things is just the sheer amount of dedication and planning and like all the meticulous little details that they've carefully been planting over the years. This was the culmination of so many of those like plot threads.
Right.
And so not only do we finally have an expansion where we're the main, really the main character, and there seems like some really dire stakes and everything is just like gritty, right? And they don't hold their punches this time. They're just like, oh, you thought this was going to be this kind of romp, but here's a fucking haymaker out of left field on the floor. Welcome first, bitch.
right.
It's they just hit you with it.
Yeah.
And suddenly all these like threads just come together, and you're like, oh my god.
How many of you guys did Alice first?
Me.
When you got to choose?
Yep.
I feel like that set the tone for the expansion way better if you went into that one first.
Oh yeah.
Alfino's was good, but Alice's was just like, what the fuck? Oh my god.
Yep.
Yeah, Alice is definitely the one. No, the reason I picked Alice is because of the wall of light, and I was like, this kind of puts me in the moment a lot more of what's going on in the story. It felt like that's the direction it would take. I'm like, I could go explore this other city. Maybe I'll unlock it. And then, I figured out later it was a much deeper thing than that. But like, it gave me the base and core of what was happening in the world. Where the other one, you're like learning about the city, right? You don't really get that core built as much.
Yeah, it was still a good narrative tool, but it didn't really have the severity that, because you didn't get hit with the severity of Yulmore until the end.
Right.
Like really near the end, you saw what was actually happening. Like you just saw this kind of dystopic thing, and it's like, oh, this is trippy, sort of a thing. But to actually like learn, I'm still talking like I'm trying not to spoil things.
No, fuck it.
The fact that they were basically, they kind of brought that to a close, that the people are disappearing because they're being turned into sin eaters and then being fed to the other citizens. Like that's a whole other level of fucked up. If they did that sooner, then I think it would have had the same level of impact.
So going back to kind of how we all arrived in the source, I do want to talk a little bit about how that whole beginning happened. Because before we picked that choice between the twins, which one are we going to do? How long did it take you to get to the source? 1 minute?
Yeah.
2 minutes?
It was immediate. Yeah.
Like we were all kind of, I was at least, all right, I'll tell you, I was kind of like bored of what was happening at the end of Stormblood, and I was like, this isn't too exciting, but they say, screw it, you just don't worry about it anymore, go on to the next expansion, and you literally just dive into a whole new world. And
I expected it to build up a little bit more. I expected there to be a couple of quests and some exposition or something, but no, it's just like, oh, bye.
Right.
Yeah,
which is what I wanted. I was like, I'm done, I want to get into this, I want to do it. No more messing around with this. Let's get into it. Because I was just like overhyped for it.
Yeah. It was such a great intro to the whole story and to set the mood and everything else and kind of pump you to move forward. Because it's funny when you're zooming out, you're like kind of all dazed and going everything and top towards there. Okay, this is what we want. I'm glad it's working. See you later. And just had this whole like weird, you're like, okay, I guess. And you disappear, and then you go into the source, and you meet this merchant who immediately, you set up this nice little character building thing with him. They're like, oh, this merchant has something with him. Maybe we'll see him later. Then you find out he was eaten like maybe half a day later, right?
Well, not even like
it's like 5 seconds.
Well, 5 seconds of story time, but I mean, well, yeah.
Yeah, or at least his hand got omnommed because I was just like,
Yeah.
why? Because I was just like, what? Why? And then going into Alisaie's story right after that, I'm like, they're just picking him off. Look, NPCs, stay away from me. It's not safe.
Yeah, can
Go
we
away.
talk about that a second?
Yeah, of course.
Just like, so I feel like they should have made everyone do Alisaie first, because that just, it immediately just like, this is the stakes. This is it.
Yeah.
Because like we're going through and then you meet Tesleen and I'm like, oh, she's sweet. I like her. She's a nice character and she's real friendly and she's a little flirty with you even, right? And you like her. And then immediately just like, bam, she's fucking dead. She's a monster.
It's morbid. The cutscene is morbid.
I love it.
Awful.
It's
How
awesome.
dare you get attached to an NPC? How dare you, you idiot? That's how I
Just like-
feel. The game is talking to me the whole time.
Well, I mean, like, there's always this toss-up, right? They're like, we're introducing a character. Are we going to kill this character, or is it going to be an important character throughout the rest of Stormblood? I don't know. There's a lot of interaction. It could go any way, and you see where it goes.
I didn't think George R.R. Martin's RPG was coming out yet, but they proved us wrong.
Right.
It was yeah, really legit. I mean, I do enjoy the fact that they kind of gave us the option, a little bit of narrative freedom. And I'm not sure if they really knew how impactful that would be. I think it'd be kind of hard not to when writing it. Like the person writing it was like, "This is gonna fucking get them," you know. But I guess it just depends on your taste too. Like if you're more into the diplomatic stuff, then you know that's kind of what you're gonna get with Alfino. And if you want to get into the nitty gritty, that's Alisaie's right up her alley.
Yeah, I think it was fine. I think the way they did it, and they changed, like, I think dialogue as you're going throughout the story. If you do one, they're like, oh, well, go help so-and-so, go help Alphinaud out, or go help Alisaie out now. I wonder what's going on over there. And I did Alisaie, but didn't talk to her in the last quest. So then I did all Alphinaud, and at the very end, he's like, oh, well, go help Alisaie out. I'm like, well, she's like right here. I guess. All right, hey, you're helped out. And I mean, they both kind of did have dark stories too, in a way. I mean, when you talk about Alphinaud and you're going through that whole story, and he's the artist, and you got, you know, this weird assistant thing going on. Then you have that guy like trying to cut his arm off.
Yeah.
That was pretty dark. And they threw somebody off.
When the whole world is ending, and you've got this one like salvation, and the only way to stay in that salvation is, hey, cut your arm off. You're gonna cut your fucking arm off when you're that desperate, man. It's nuts.
It was. I think it was good. I think both had like their highlights of darkness. I will say that like moving forward throughout the rest of it, it kind of started to get a little bit softer. Like it wasn't as bad. Like those two starting zones were the worst, and afterwards it didn't seem too bad until you got to the very end. It felt like almost with the world exploding and meteors going down, which, well, we can talk about that more later. But I think they did right by how they introduced us to the world and everything, getting into the source, and then we kind of follow this path going up and get into the Crystarium and everything else, and meeting everybody's new husband foo or whatever, like almost immediately. And I like how we knew who it was. They even had the name, like, hey, are you Gratia? It's like, who's that?
I love that.
I think they had to edit that maybe later once they realized we were all on top of it.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I was like, I wonder if they really had that like originally, or if they saw the community and like, let's mess with them.
Yeah, because I mean, if they ask that question and he flat out says, I don't know what you're talking about, you add that level of maybe not, right?
Yeah.
I was still thinking the whole time, like, maybe it's not him, maybe it's not.
Yeah.
I thought potentially it was a future version of Alfino, and he came back, especially when right before you're making the, what do they call him, the golem, to get to the 69 or 79 ninjas.
Yeah.
The Talos, yeah. I thought, oh, maybe this is a future version, because he talked so much like Alfino, like his dialogue reminded me so much of him right off the bat. So I thought maybe we're dealing with a doppelganger, like a
right.
But it definitely seemed to be time based.
And by the way, just to correct myself, I said source again. I mean the first. I don't know why I messed that up a couple times already. But we'll guys, correct me if I say it, and just call me an idiot.
I mean, you're dead to me. That's all there is to it.
Oh, okay. Fair. Yeah, and so going up and building that whole tower. There's a lot of little interesting things that were going on throughout the story. There were a couple parts that seemed like they slowed down a little bit, but every single zone, the way they introduced it and kind of put you into the issues of that little world and everything else, felt right. I felt like I don't know. I just felt like I cared about everything that was going on, and I wanted to maybe even click on the side quest and see like, oh, what does this guy want?
Mm-hmm.
What will I learn?
I even got to the point where I was talking to NPCs that had nothing to do with any of the quests just to see what they were saying.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, so with me in particular, I think one of my favorite things is the fact that even if a zone felt like it was slowing down a little bit, it always, without fail, built up to something just massive. Like every zone had some moment where you're just like, holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like one moment that was particularly slow for me was comparatively, it wasn't even that slow. Like I still enjoyed it. Was the stuff around Twine, getting the trolley working,
Mm-hmm.
and then the second you get that working, it's like, oh fuck,
yeah,
you're right into it.
Yeah, and we're gonna be jumping around a little bit. We won't go through like the whole exact timeline of the story. There's aspects that kind of jump out at us, and that in particular has a pretty interesting part because you're like, oh. I guess the way they do trains here is get a giant golem to push it. I guess that's an engine. It makes sense. They couldn't get the door up any other way besides having the golem there. And you're just like, okay. And you went with it, and then immediately you get thrown the fuck off. And they're like, just kidding. You got super badass, almost impossible to kill bad guy in front of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you go through that whole thing, and then you get into the infamous Thancred versus is it Ranjit?
Ranjit.
Yeah.
You get into his fight. What'd you guys think about that? I talked about it a little bit last week, but I want to know what you guys think.
It was so well done.
Okay.
I felt like my heart was racing too. Like, oh fuck, is he gonna die? Like, what is this?
Okay.
It's funny because I think a lot of people might have the thought, like, damn, this is taking a really long time. Like, it's kind of tedious. And it's like, that's probably on purpose. Like, it's probably to convey how Thancred felt fighting him and defending his party. It was really well done. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Drac, what are your thoughts?
I didn't think about it like that. I was just like, I don't really like those styles of fights where we're like, I understand why they would do it. I'm not saying they shouldn't do it, but it's not my flavor to go into like the NPC stuff, especially since like their moveset is still so very limited. So I mean, I'm playing Black Meat, so I can't really say that hitting one button is boring, but it's still narratively it was very good. But I still would prefer just to watch it, kind of a thing, rather than take part. But that's just a personal.
I personally I loved it. I thought it was great. And this is just because I'm kind of okay with it. There's a lot of aspects that people complain about. Of course, the length there. All right, so that whole length is a struggle. Like, of course, you're like, wow, this keeps going on. I mean, I really don't know. This might be the point where they kill Thancred, right? They might kill him off here, and then you're kind of starting to question it because it feels very like he's way stronger than you are because of how long it's taking, and you're going through all these motions. You have a very limited skill set. And the thing that I'll say about that is, one, when new players are getting used to Gunbreaker, they're like, they have to read the abilities while doing some of the mechanics at the same time and try to figure it out. I mean, you figure it out pretty quickly, but newer players will take a little bit longer, and so you can't overload it with a full rotation. The second part is I feel like it adds that flavor of like, I don't have a lot of options. I'm not really strong. I have these few things I can do. I can't think of anything else I can do. This is my limit. I know nothing else. And you're like,
Thancred is absolutely not a warrior of light by any means. So
he even uses ether. So like it definitely adds to that element of he's struggling to just stay alive.
Right.
I will say, once you get into that final phase and Ranjit, like you have your like get up or your, I'm not going to say that anymore. Don't overuse it. You have that trump card where he's just like, all right, now it's time to go invisible and, you know, get my hit in. And then it stops working. You're just like, oh,
you start feeling helpless.
Yeah. It's like, what am I supposed to do? Like, that's where I started relating more Thancred and like feeling that frustration and kind of that, you know, you're backed into a corner. You don't know what to do. So that's at that point I did, but getting to it was a little bit of a slog for me.
Yeah.
but I really liked how they did that at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah. And especially with how, like, with the previous one, you know, his, like, the heartbeat starts and he's, like, obviously straining. And then the final one where he just, like, completely is just nearly killing himself and his heart's fucking racing and it's, like, pounding in your ears. And it's like, oh, shit, he's going to fucking die. I think at the time you also have, like, a debuff that's slowly ticking down. And it's like, if that hits 0, you're going to die. And so there's, like, that, oh, shit, I got to, like, get over there. And you're, like, just crawling across the floor because you fucking can barely move, trying to get to that one spot to take that shot. It's just, it was good. It was really good. It felt high stakes.
Yeah, and they said something in chat here, like, is it supposed to be like this? Like, I kind of went through, I'm like, am I doing something wrong? Why is it taking so long? Am I messing up somewhere? And I wasn't, but Thancrit might be thinking that, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I'm happy with it. I know a lot of people who just wanted to play and get through everything. They're like, this is tedious. I don't want to go through it. I'm fine. I've come to terms with believing that right now, Final Fantasy XIV is a story MMO for me. Not a huge, like, crazy PvE rating, even though there's, you know, rating in the game. Story is the main focus. Because they just knocked it out of the park so well. They also do a lot of these interesting characters. You guys were talking about these little seeds that they planted from other expansions and everything. One little weird thing, I think this probably wasn't anything, I noticed it immediately, I don't know if everyone else did, is when you watch one of the cutscenes when you go meet Ishtola and they're interacting with everyone, and then she just, like, taps Urianger on the butt. I didn't know how to take that. I don't know if that was just like a...
It was the small of his back.
The small of his... Okay.
She patted his back because she's tiny.
Okay. It
He's also
looked like
blind.
my type. Well... they don't really, and you know, that's kind of interesting. They never really go into her. They talk about it a little bit, but they don't explain why she can see something so well and she can't see other things. Like she's making, I guess I'm assuming, on what the Aether's looking.
Yeah, she sees, like, she's blind, but when she looks at something that's made out of ether, it's just like a glowing, like, outline of it. That's why when she first meets us, she thinks we're a sin eater because she just sees our ether and it's all fucked up like a sin eater.
Yeah, and I think that's... I started to realize that a little bit when they come out there and they're like, Ishtola just doesn't recognize you. You're like, what the fuck? What did I do with you over the last fucking 5-6 years? How do you not know who I am?
Yeah.
What was your dialogue option that you picked?
I can't remember what the choices were.
It was like, good to see you too, or something, or not your enemy, or and then one was Kupo.
Oh, I should have picked Kupo. I saw it. I hovered over it. I was like, it's good to see you again, though. I think that's the one that I picked.
That was the one where you're about to be
shot.
Yeah. Like before you see Y'shtola.
Yeah.
I picked Kupo.
I love the dialogue after. That's going to be a lot less funny when we have to kill them.
Yeah.
I'm like, and then your character's face is like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make it funny.
Well, with a lot of the characters, I know it didn't really matter which one I picked. You just get a little bit different flavor here and there. But I wanted to pick stuff that I wanted to say, right? And so in the list, I was like, I relate most to this feeling right now. I'm going to pick this one.
Oh, sure.
And so that's the way I went. I could have, of course, done that. I probably should have. But
there were some really fun ones, yeah.
I think so. I think they did a pretty good job with that. Because, you know, again, in the end, it's not going to matter which one you pick. You just know this is what I want to say right now. And I want to see what the response is because of this. I guess people who are like a little bit more, I don't know, they want to see what the jokes that Koji can come up with, that they'll hit the Kupos.
There's one where Ishtola is telling you to go to your room to rest, and you can be like, okay, mother.
Yes.
And she threatens to spank you.
Yeah. There's some really passive-aggressive, shitty responses that you can choose throughout the entire thing.
Yeah.
You know, I really like the responses this time. Like the quote unquote negative responses are So like you go back into 5.0 and you could just be a dick for no reason, but at least all the negative responses kind of fit a sort of like emotion or something this time. They don't seem stupid or forced.
Right.
I said 5.0, but I think I meant 2.0.
Oh yeah, that's good. 5.0. Yeah, oh 5.0. Crazy.
Yeah.
It feels like it's been a long time. I don't know. I'm gonna again. It feels like I just played an RPG and I finished it. Like it had all the starts, like going into a new world, exploring a new world, going to an epic battle at the end, thinking that you beat the game, but no, really something else is going on, and you go into the real crazy shit.
It's a Final Fantasy game, like through and through. It's really good.
Yeah.
So, Shadowbringers in particular has made me completely reevaluate how I look at 14. I don't look at it as just an MMO anymore. First and foremost, I see it as an online Final Fantasy. Like that's what it is to me. It's a Final Fantasy game that just so happens to be online with other players.
Yeah, you get story updates, and every once in a while you can do the story updates, and you can say, hey, I want something a little bit more challenging. You could do like the hard content or the harder content. That's kind of how it is. It's not just that MMO of like, let's get together and it's all about raiding and everything else. It's crazy. I didn't think I would have that perspective ever with Final Fantasy. I always treated it just like a straight MMO, like I knew it to be. But it's definitely different.
That's what
it's
been.
Yeah.
Yes, and you get PvP updates, dude. Yeah. But the other thing that I wanted to say here, and I kind of have a little bit of a list of things that kind of stood out to me. When we get into this story and we're going through everything, how much did you guys think, what's going on in Eorzea? What's going on with the Garleans, right? Did you just completely forget about it, or?
I didn't give a shit, dude.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was so drawn into the first. I didn't really think about it until they like forced you back in a, you know, meanwhile in Garlemald. I didn't really think about it.
Because before, you know, getting into expansion and everything else, I'm like, I don't know why they're taking us away with what's in front of us with the Garleans and everything else. Like, this is what we've been fighting for, and we were supposed to have this conflict and everything else. And I predicted it exactly, that they were going to do a couple of meanwhiles to throw us back there. I think a lot of people probably expected that as well.
Yeah.
Then we get to see the adventures of Estinian and God, what's his name? Why am I forgetting it? Gaius. Kind of weird and out of place, right? Maybe not. I just wasn't expecting it. They're like the Scions were like, oh, we just got Estinian to go in there and do some work. We begged him to come back, and we forced him to do it. So it was. We had questions like with Xenos and everything else, and they answered that. But I felt they had to do it, and it was part of nothing that was going on around me. So it was hard to care about it as much.
Well, it's because, I mean, we're going to have to eventually go back to that. They have to keep building onto it, even if even if it's not the focus right now. Yeah.
And, I mean, do you think we're going to go back to it in this expansion in a patch later on, or is it going to be 6.0?
I think we're going to be on the first for pretty much the entire story of this one.
I think it's going to be the tail end, like maybe the final patch where we start heading back and shit's going to be on fucking fire. We're gonna be like, oh boy.
Yeah.
We're gone.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they introduced time in such a weird way. Well, I mean, they kept it kind of like time's a mystery kind of thing. That's what it felt like the concept was here. Like, we don't know. It's happening 5 years and 2 minutes, and maybe don't move at all, and it's all up in the air, right? So Thancred spent 5 years without us, right? Kind of weird. Go ahead, Merri. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no. You were... Go.
No, I was just going to say that it's kind of strange that, like, we went in with Thancred, and he's like, yeah, it's been 5 years. What's up, man? And he just went forward. No problem at all. Like, there was no, like... It didn't feel like anything was that different, maybe. It felt like a little bit of time has passed, but 5 years is a lot.
I mean, they probably mostly spent all that time learning what they could about the world and just waiting for us to move forward. So, what could they have done on their own, right? Like,
we're Goku, right? Waiting on Goku.
Yeah.
Jeez. But yeah, go ahead, Merri. Sorry, I was going to a whole thing there.
Fine. I'm sorry. I think it's a really powerful tool that they established with that, because what it allows them to do is, like, at any point in the story, there could be a time skip that we don't know about. You know, we could be doing just something on the first, and suddenly we head back to the source, and it's like, you've been gone for 2 years and everything is fucking burning down. Where have you been? It's like, but it's been 5 minutes since I last popped over there for a second. What happened? So they could definitely, like, set the stage in a real crazy way for the next expansion.
Just bring us back to like an Armageddon that we have to try to prevent again.
Basically, or just like maybe, you know, Garlemald has invaded proper and they didn't do Black Rose, but everything's all fucked up, or maybe all the nations are joined together and they're already waging war in Garlemald. It's like, get over there, dude. They need you. We're already fighting them. So like, so many things can happen.
It's strange. The other part, I think the other weird thing is I was confused as fuck about like the crystal. Is it Eckhart? What is it called?
Exarch.
Eckhart. I was confused about how all that stuff worked. I didn't think they were going to be able to explain it in a way that I could accept, but I felt like they did in a way. Even though a lot of time stuff was involved there, it all loops back around the way that you're like, okay, I guess I can see this. Did you guys like how they did that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
With the
I usually hate time travel as a plot device. I hate it in like every movie, every story. But like, I feel like I'm biased because it's 14, and then also they just explained it in a decent way. I'm worried about the future of it, because hopefully it's not just this abused thing for the sake of plot. But for right now, for what it is right now, I like it.
Okay. Drac, Merri?
I'm iffy with it because, like, in say a show I watched, Home Tutor Hitman Reborn, and they had a really good time arc, and it really, when you do something like that, or at least when you have the plot device of going back and forth, because this one you don't have the option of really going back and forth unless the Crystal Tower allows you to, unless they figure out how to send you back too. But making it too easy to get back and forth the way that they have, for us anyway, takes away any peril, kind of a thing. So it really only works in a good story if you're stuck there. Like, you have to work to get back to where you're at. An example that I can think of a bad way of doing it was like Dragon Ball Super, where they could just go back and forth over and over and over and over and over again. Like, anytime they got into a pinch, there was no, we got to overcome it. Get out and we'll come back, kind of a thing. We're safe now. Okay, now we'll come back and try it again. I mean, that whole arc was pretty stupid anyway, but that was a really poorly done thing. I liked how they did it, because they're like, all right, now we're on kind of like we're on an equilibrium now, so it's not going to be too bad, so it's not going to mess with the game. But yeah,
it's bad, because I mean, you start using time travel to solve all your. She's like, all right, well, I mean, now we can go back in time. Let's go back and stop Bahamut from fucking up the world, right?
Yeah.
Let's go back even further. Let's just go back to wherever we want to fix history and do it. But you have to like make ways where that doesn't work out, like you were saying, or otherwise it just becomes abused and it's not as interesting.
Yeah, it takes away any sort of peril.
They did kind of put a nail in that coffin. It's like, well, it was a one shot thing, especially now that we've just fucking destroyed the very thing that they used to time travel in the first place. Like, that's it.
The reason we destroyed it is because it was already broken, right? We just needed to like dispose of it.
Yeah, it was causing some weird like temporal shit, and it's like, got to take care of it. So
okay, so it's off the table now.
Yeah.
So just is this the dungeon that I think you're talking about with the crystal?
Okay.
Yes, sorry,
I haven't done that one yet.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you're behind, Drek.
I watched the end cutscene, so I had an idea of like kind of what was going on, but I still haven't done the whole thing yet.
It's good. It's a real good dungeon.
I'm excited.
Yeah, I fucked up that last boss a lot, tanking it. It was hard to see around the boss, man. I was just like, I gotta do the mechanic. Let me like peer around. It was goofy for me, but it was nice to go through there. And then I actually, after I finished the dungeon, I went back and read all the journals and everything. I did that with every single dungeon. I went back and just read all the little side bits because I wanted to. That's weird, right? I just wanted to read more. I wanted to know more about the story.
Academia had me so into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Merri?
they add little extra like tidbits
Mhm.
into the journal sometime that you
Yeah.
just wouldn't have got otherwise. So
Yeah. And I'm happy about it. I mean, again, going into my whole experience, and let's hit a little bit with the stories of each zone, because I want to jump to the end, but we can get there in a second. We got plenty of time. We got plenty of time here. So I kind of want to talk about, because there's a lot of world building, a lot of other things going on. In every single zone, you go in and you get to see different parts of how everything turned out. And we talked a little bit about how like Elmore really was and everything else, or Ilmore. You got this. What? You got all these. They're up there. They're rich. How? I only saw one plump cat.
Yeah.
Right? They had like
Well, no,
500 in the cutscene.
One Chungus.
there's two.
There's two?
Yeah, there's the Chais, and well, the Chai, I should say, and then there's an NPC that walks around wearing like a mask.
Yeah, I saw them in Yulmore.
Okay. Okay. I was thinking it was just going to be populated, just like all over the place. And I don't know. It felt like it was. I was a little bit disappointed in that. I was
I think
oversold.
we'll see more,
Okay.
maybe in like the story moving forward. But yeah, there's no males like in the CG.
Well, I don't know. You could make up so many things about that too. Yeah, because all the males it was all males in CG, but there's none in the game.
Hmm.
Maybe we'll see them in the future.
Yeah.
But that whole area, it was like just pretty much. It was interesting going through and visiting the different parts and then making that Titan and all the other stuff that you had to do at the very end of it. But how they just kind of threw people out onto the ground and they fed them sin eaters to try to control them. And I will have to say the jesters, I kind of was expecting a little bit more from them.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. It reminded me of the two NPCs that we fought in the last dungeon of
Yeah.
right? But
Same color scheme.
where the fuck did they go? They just kind of disappeared. They're like, we're gonna get back for you, and now gone. And now we got two jesters. What, Merri?
Well, we left the source, so
Yeah, I mean we did. But I don't know. It felt like it was not, and I think they were just called like what, some jester, another jester. What were their names again?
yeah, it was
I
like
have no idea.
yeah, I don't know.
Very mediocre like names. So they weren't like really big characters, but they felt like they could have been. And then later on, we just beat them up real quick in like a solo instance, right?
Yeah, well, I think
Yeah.
we killed him.
There we go. Red Jungulier and blue Jungulier, is that right?
Yeah, something like that.
But going through, and I was actually expecting to see that city. Like when we went to Stormblood, we got both cities almost immediately, right?
Did we?
Yeah.
I thought it took a little
By
bit.
like 73, I think is
Yeah.
when you go to-
Stormblood just moves so fast.
yeah.
Yeah.
So scattered.
Mhm.
That made it a little hard
Yeah.
to be invested. That was the flaw there. Like it was. I like the stories, but by the time you got invested in it, you were already off to the next thing.
Yeah.
And
That's
then
my
it
biggest
changed it.
issue with it.
So that was the problem there.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember a lot about the story, to be honest with you. I watched every cutscene and everything for Stormblood, but not much sticks with me. I don't know why. I just wasn't as invested, I guess. But going back to Elmore, we didn't get that until like what, 79? Like we couldn't get to the Aetherite until 79?
Oh yeah,
yeah.
they teased us with it a little bit.
You could still go in there,
Mhm.
but you couldn't like make an Aetherite there or attune to it.
I thought that was a good choice.
Yeah.
I liked it.
It was interesting to kind of see all the different aspects of the poor versus the rich, and they didn't overkill it. But then at the very end of that zone, you start seeing like the dwarfs, which I thought were going to be a lot earlier on.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too.
And I'm guessing there's more quests with the dwarfs later on, and I just haven't found it yet. Is it just
There's
that one
some
little
Side quests.
It's
Yeah.
good quest.
just side quest?
Yeah.
Yeah, for the most
Have you
part.
not gotten the emote?
No.
You can get the Lally Ho emote.
I mean, like they're not huge. They're a beast tribe. Like we might see them in beast tribes later.
Mm-hmm.
But because when they introduced that, I was like, man, we're going to see a lot of these guys. And I waited all the way up until 78 or so before I actually saw them.
I mean, we saw about as much of them as we did the Fae.
Oh, did any of you guys go in the houses?
Not a Lalafell.
Fuck
Yeah.
you.
I did not. No, I have no clue what it looks like. I didn't care. I was like, I'd rather not be a Lalafell going in than...
I panned my camera inside with G-pose.
Oh, okay. Is it anything interesting?
I mean, well, there's an upstairs you can't get to, but
Okay.
there's some really funny stuff with that too. So, like, if you try to use a ring, like a Eternal Bond ring, to teleport to Lalafell who is inside, it gives you a message like you've gone to somewhere more fitting for, or a place more fitting for someone of your stature, and it like kicks you across the entire zone.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, so you can't even.
I assume that's what happens if you try to Fantasia while you're in it.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, because they would have had to think about how to deal with all these little issues, right?
You know, keep people out.
Yeah. I don't know. I will say though, it was scenery-wise, that zone wasn't very interesting to me.
I liked it okay.
Yeah.
It was like a desolate wasteland to highlight how nice Calusia was. Or not Calusia, but Yulmore.
Yeah,
Like Yulmore was this beacon of hope in this desolate wasteland is what it was supposed to be.
Okay, I gotcha. No, that makes sense. I was just never really, after getting through the first part of the storyline and everything, I wasn't that excited to go back because I didn't think there was too much there that was... I knew the situation with Elmore and everything else story-wise, but like seeing it and comparing that to Pixie Land, right, is a little bit different.
Oh yeah.
I really liked just how far they went with drawing the connections between the source and the first, because we come to find out, you know, they are the same. Like the source looked exactly like the first at one point in time, but the reason the source looks different is because the calamities just fucked everything up. And so, you know, the first is what everything originally looked like, unaltered. And so, like, you see all these little, like, subtle similarities between, you know, Lenosia and Calusia, and it's just like, it's almost like a little uncanny valley-esque. It's like
Uncali Vanny. Yeah, you get
it. Shut up. But it's so close, and it's just like, oh, this is, I know this. It's almost there.
It's like that little like I know it, but I don't. You know what I mean? Yeah, it's
cool. Really cool.
I like it a lot.
Yeah. But getting past that, I guess we should talk about the other. Sorry, like my mind's going back and forth between these zones and trying to look at everything. It was Calusia. Calusia was the one with Alice.
No,
right? No,
that's
wait. Amarong. Okay, Amarong. Sorry, I'm trying to remember all the names and everything else. Because now I'm starting to blank for some reason. Because were they both kind of like wastelands?
Amarong was Thanalan, so it was the
desert.
desert.
Okay, I got it. Okay, now I remember it better. For some reason, I kind of blanked on that one. Because we go back to... for Minfilia's arc, right? To finish that off. And I guess it just didn't seem like the zone didn't stand out to me as much as the other zones in the game, because all the other zones are completely unique, but these I guess maybe relate more to me in some way. They're both dry. I don't know. Or I'm stupid.
I like Amarang a lot. I think like I don't normally like desert maps. They usually bore the shit out of me, but Amarang was designed in this way where it's like it's not just an empty, big, vast desert. It's actually got stuff going on there. It's got some interesting things happening. I like Amarang a lot. I think it was one of my favorite zones.
Okay. Yeah, and the music. What the fuck with the music?
I love the music. It was the first zone I got to rank 3 just so I could buy the orchestrion.
Holy shit! Like, I went in there. It's like this does not seem like the music I would expect. It was just like, here's some good music. We're not going to put like really. It's not zone appropriate, right? You don't think that music and then think that zone.
It kind of fit for me. I liked it. Okay. I liked Corey's joke with it because right as soon as it got to that first little bit analysis story where you're gonna give the kid that, what is it, the apricot or something like that, or his nectarine, and he's all like lo-fi hip hop to murder kids too. The thing, like that was his vibe.
How'd you guys like that that conflict that they gave you about them murdering the child because it's going to turn into a sin eater, and then the child is like just creepy as all get out?
I don't know what the hell is up with that kid, dude.
Yeah, I hated him at first because it's because of you little shit that fucking.
Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, we got to save him because that's what she wanted, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about this too, because this really fits into the zone. Doing those two zones first, or doing Alice's zone at least, the first dungeon you go into is super relevant to the story and the world and everything else that's happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
It feels right. I mean, you go in there, oh, there's the angel that fucked up my friend, gotta kill them. Oh, there's my friend who's fucked up, gotta kill them. And it feels right. It feels like it just fits into it perfectly. I don't think a lot of the other dungeons, I mean, some do, but most of them didn't feel that way, right? It was like, yeah, this is part of the story. Like when we go and face the frogs, huh?
The fluff, yeah.
Yeah, the fluff. It felt like we're doing some side thing. First,
I don't agree with that. I felt like all of the dungeons were very story relevant to what you were doing at the time. Yeah. The first one set a really high bar though, because it was extremely cinematic and extremely in depth with like what was going on. Whereas, the 73 dungeon with the Floth was a little more, it wasn't as serious. Like it still had as much weight to the story. Like you had to do this thing so you could, take out Titania or whatever, but like it wasn't as serious toned, I guess.
Yeah, the vibe was certainly more intense. You felt like a lot more gravity in what you were doing rather than, hey, if these guys say no, I'm just going to beat them up until they say yes, kind of a thing. But yeah, I really liked how each dungeon you remember each boss because it's integral to the story. So I really liked that maintenance of theme. Whereas in Stormblood, you really didn't have that. It was very kind of all over the place. Like I kind of care about this boss maybe. Like I really liked all of the Azim Step, but as soon as we got to the dungeon, I couldn't care less about it, because like you're going through a trial, but I much more remember the conflict between the tribes than the dungeon.
Yeah. Absolutely,
like that seemed like more of a rite of passage than anything else that they kind of threw at us. So this way, I feel like we at least had more. It was more cohesive in that way. So I appreciated that in it.
Yeah, I mean, they felt important, right? They felt like they were important, but they started off really strong, and then it just kind of went down to meeting this, because how much experience do we have with the Froth or whatever before we get into Don Meg?
Like a couple of cutscenes. We just didn't know what they are.
Yeah. It was kind of creepy when they were trying to suck us into the water at the end and everything, but
the whole of El Meg is fucked up.
Yeah,
oh my god,
it's really fucked.
These guys aren't as bad as the Moogles, and then they're like, oh, we'll kill you so you can be with us forever. It's like, okay, much worse. Red flag, danger, get out of here.
So that was hilarious. Like when we were going through and we were doing the media tour and we went through El Meg and everything else, and we saw these little bush guys. They're like, hey, that's kind of interesting. They got little bush guys, and then like immediately they're like, yeah, we turned them into bush guys, so they'll be with us forever. And we're like, oh
fuck.
I want to get off this
like
ride.
That ending cutscene as you're leaving the zone is just like, I'm really glad they're on our side.
Serious.
It was hard to be okay with it because every time I saw one of those bushes, I was like, oh fuck, Fairy just killed somebody there.
Yeah.
There's like one where there's a little bush guy by the water and there's just a fishing pole discarded, and it's like, that was just some dude fishing. And there's like one with a pickaxe, and it's like, that guy was just mining and he got turned into a bush and he's dead.
Yeah.
And it's not like these were all bad people. They're just people who didn't convince the fairies not to kill him.
One of the Fate stories, people are just looking for medicinal herbs, and they're like, oh, we're just playing with them by murdering them. I'm just like, no. So you have to like fight off the fairies to get them out of there.
Yeah.
Oh, jeez. There was. How'd you guys like the kind of what is it? It's Scottish accent they all had. Did that feel right?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it.
It was kind of interesting they chose to do that because I mean it stood out immediately. And it was. I'm still trying to figure out if I liked Feo or I didn't like them.
I think that might be the point of their character.
Right? Yeah. I guess so. It was kind of interesting just going through that and then seeing them and then them getting really mad at me and I'm like, all right, a little
obsessed.
I really liked her after your little moment in the Crystarium after Infants, where she just like gives you some really nice like words of encouragement. Yeah, it's obvious she really cares about you. She's like, you could just become the king of the fairies if you wanted to. I know you'd say no, but
yeah, that was nice.
Yeah.
And I think that was kind of a theme throughout a lot of the characters.
Was that like? Can we actually talk about that for a second?
Sure.
Because like, to become the next king of the fairies, you have to kill like that. The reason Feo is king of the fairies is because we killed the previous one. Is Feo offering to like die for us?
No, it's like she can give up her title.
Okay.
We kill Titania because she was
all right.
A light warden.
I like to think that they'd die for us, though.
I kind of like that too. Yeah.
It was an odd kind of morbid thing where I actually found myself like it because I related so much to the Warrior of Light. Not like, oh, I've been through that, but like just connected us so strongly.
I vomit up cum every day, dude. I'm the Warrior of Light.
Jesus.
But I was like, that's real tempting, kind of a thing. Like this one individual that we just met is giving us a way out that nobody else can, kind of a thing. It just had such a gravity.
Yeah,
in my mind,
it's the first time that's ever happened in this game.
It was, oh man, it was such a feels trip, like for the entire thing. It just, yeah. That's all I can say. It was so impactful.
I never thought of it that way.
What were you saying, Merri?
Emotional, Tate?
Yeah, well, I never thought of it. I never thought of it as like, wow, that's actually just a way out from all of this shit we've been dealing with for years.
It's not just like with her, but like with everybody. I feel more than ever, it's really evident how much so many of the characters care about you. Like the one scene where you're about to just go off on your own because you're like, I don't want my friends to fucking die because I'm going to turn into a light warden. And then they all show up and it's like, we're staying with you. And then fucking, Alice starts crying. I was like, oh my God, stop. Please don't do it to me.
And then Denmo makes a music video. So, geez, that's so good. If you guys haven't seen it, you should check it out. Look up Denmo stuff.
Phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, and then a lot of the characters overall seemed like they loved you. It wasn't that they were like, oh, that's my friend. They're like, this is one of the best people in my life. I need this person to exist.
Yeah.
You feel like a family. I felt like more than ever, the Scions weren't just my companions. It felt like they were family.
Yeah.
At the same time. Oh, yeah.
This time around.
What were you saying, Drac?
It's just like where you really realize you guys are freaking helpless without me. You guys got nothing.
Yeah, and they were.
This asshole sat here for 5 years just waiting for me.
Yeah, I mean, Thancred, there's a lot of stuff when. I'm going to talk about this because this was something that hit me, and I noticed it while going through the story, and it felt great. Was Thancred and Memphilia are Thancred and Rain, right? Or is it Rain, right? Reen. Okay, Reen. So you're going through this whole story, and our past, right, with Memphilia and everything else, we're like, oh man, what's going on kind of with Memphilia? It's kind of a mystery. We don't really have good closure with her. It's kind of, we have an idea what's happening. And then we find out Memphilia is like giving her powers to like women or young girls and then sending them off the war to die, basically. And she's like, you know what? I'm tired of this shit. But doing that's where Reen comes in, and with Thancred, and Thancred's dealing with his own emotions of getting over what happened with Minfilia, even though Minfilia's been there for the longest of everyone else, 100 years, right? And going through that whole process of her saying, I'm accepting dying to let this one person live, and we get closure on Minfilia, right? And we don't hate Minfilia. Maybe some people hated Minfilia before this storyline. I don't know if you guys did, but a lot of people got closure with her. And it felt good, because I felt like Thancred was kind of us a little bit, the player going through and closing out with her.
Yeah, I mean, Thancred just had such a, like, so much baggage with her.
Yeah.
Just like being responsible for her father's death, and then not being there for her when he should have, and just like wanting to do right by her this whole time. And then because I think Minfilia didn't have the chance to get the treatment that a lot of the other Scions have, because early on I had a rough time with them. Like, I'm still getting over Y'shtola's attitude kind of a thing. But like, Minfilia didn't, the first time she actually got to do something rather than just being damsel in distress, she got swept away, and we no longer had her anymore. And then the first time we get really to see her back, she's gone again, kind of a thing. So that was a struggle for Minfilia's character, but I think it was a good redemption for her character. Not that she did anything wrong, but she really got a chance to shine as an individual. So I thought that was really neat. And then Thancred had all that time, and you kind of get to see him struggle with, you know, wanting to honor Minfilia's wishes, but also wanting to be able to feel good with what he had done in his life for her to make up for everything that he'd done. And kind of conflicted how was the best way to do that. So it was a really good story arc for him.
Yeah.
It was,
I was really happy with the way they just finally capped off Minfilia, especially because as a 1.0 player, I feel like more than ever, and I know a lot of other 1.0 players also might feel this way, we have a little bit more of a connection with Minfilia just because she was a primary character in 1.0. And even in 2.0, I don't know how many people know this, but if you finished the main scenario quest in 1.0, you had different cutscenes and dialogue and everything going through 2.0. And so the first time you meet Minfilia, every previous character had forgotten who your character is going into 2.0 as the warrior fight who saved the world back then. But because of her echo, she remembers you. And so like the first time you meet her, she walks up and she starts crying, and you have like this little moment where she's like, you're finally back after 5 years, you know, Louis, so I said you'd come back, and you did. And you have like this little reunion moment. And so I guess I've always seen her a little bit differently than most people, because some people had a bit of a flat like introduction to her, but my introduction in ARR was just like this really heartfelt reunion. And so I've always wanted to have her own little, you know, closure after kind of what they did to her. It was nice.
It's pretty interesting that you talk about that too, because I didn't play 1.0, so I didn't have that whole interaction that you had there. But if we go into this expansion being one of the best expansions that might bring in new players to this game, how much history do the new players have going into this expansion? I'm really curious about how impactful and how much people care about the story if they've never played it before Shadowbringers. I mean, do we think that this is a good game to say, hey, get a jump potion and jump into Shadowbringers and go through it?
I think you could still enjoy it. I don't think you'll enjoy it as much. I think what they need to do more than anything is streamline ARR.
Yeah.
They have to.
I've got one friend who they skipped every cutscene before Shadowbringers. They've been playing the game for a while, but they just didn't care about the story, and now they're actually paying attention in Shadowbringers, and they love it. They don't have all of the context that we do, but they still love Shadowbringers. So, I mean, so I think there's something there. It's just, I would suggest not doing that, because Shadowbringers is a lot better when you can make all the connections, in my opinion.
I agree.
It's very difficult to get the Shadowbringers without a jump potion.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely. I think it's the worst part of this game is getting to Shadowbringers.
And I don't know if New Game Plus will fix that or not for new players. I mean, that's all I'm really focusing on, because I can't tell you how many friends I've invited to this game and played with, and they dropped before they hit max level, or right after max level they dropped.
ARR's rough. It's just rough. And then they got, if they fixed ARR, I think it'd be so much better, because Heaven's Ward, like once you get into Heaven's Ward, it's a good story, you know. And Stormblood was hit or miss for a lot of people, but it's not terrible. But it's just like the process of getting there and like getting through the slog that is ARR turns off so many people. And it's like, that's the intro to your game, SC. You gotta fix that and make that story appealing.
And that's my big concern. I was like, what if this expansion does well? And it did well. What if this expansion is great? And no one gets to play it because they can't make it there in like a decent time. Because how burnt out can you imagine somebody's going to be getting to level 70 legitimately and then experiencing Shadowbringers? Like, are they going to still be happy and excited for all the story? Because we were dying for something at the end of Storm's Blood. They're just going to be coming right off the boat.
I feel like, yeah, just because you'll be so far removed from ARR, and like Heaven's Ward and Stormblood, I thought were good experiences going through. So they'll probably be like over the nasty bits and kind of coasting through the good stuff. So they might be enjoying themselves. But the problem is getting there, like getting to Heaven's Ward.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I mean, only time will tell how this expansion will do with new players and everything else. I'm hoping it'll do well. There's a lot of things to like nostalgia purposes that will be bringing people in. For example, Final Fantasy VIII.
Yep.
All right, this expansion is Final Fantasy VIII and Nier. So we're gonna see if that's enough to bring people in and keep them in here. And I'm going to be recommending to everybody to buy a jump potion if they start this, even though I know they're going to miss out on a lot of other stuff. I just want them to keep playing.
That's just like on top of that. That's like $60 plus like another $50.
Yeah,
that's rough.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? Because you got to buy a storyline and a level up. Yeah.
I feel for new players, honestly, because it like we experienced A Realm Reborn bit by bit. Yep. So we didn't have to slog through it. We were just going through it. Like we were getting it incrementally.
Yep.
But yeah, just knowing how much you have to cover just to get to the good stuff or the current stuff can be really demoralizing, I think. Especially if you want to be invested in the story. But yeah.
All right. I want to ask this question because we did talk about how some of this stuff was a little dark at the beginning and everything. Do you think overall, compared to other games that you guys have played, does this feel like a dark game, or is it just like a little dark, right?
It's not, I wouldn't say it's like dark like a lot of other games could be. Like for instance, Nier can get pretty dark when you get really into it.
It's no
it's but I mean it's good.
I mean, it's darker than we've seen this expansion be, I think. Or not this expansion, this game has been.
I think the biggest problem is like with how dark it is or how like impactful it is when you really think about it, in this expansion, we met our goal and we really didn't lose anything. Like there was no big sacrifice made for anything that we did. And I think that would have made it a lot more impactful. And that's not to say we're not going to make a big sacrifice in you know, post 5.0 stuff. But I think that's the biggest thing.
I do want to talk about that a little bit too, because going through the whole storyline, and I read some Twitter posts, and it took me a little bit. It took me about a week and a half, or close to 2 weeks to finish the whole story, because I was just taking it very slowly with everything else going on in my life. Once I finished it, when I was reading Twitter and everything else, or before I guess I finished it, I saw people say, "Oh, I was crying. This was really emotional." I was like, "Who died?" That's all I kept thinking. It was like, who are they crying for? Who did we lose?
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say it really didn't feel like anyone really died at the end, and it felt like that probably should have happened. I don't want to kill characters.
I mean, we don't want them to die, but that's why they should. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like it would be that much more impactful. I always talk to my buddies when this conversation is brought up, and we argue over which one of the twins should die. Like no one wants either of them to die, but that's like why it would be the most incredible thing.
The answer is Alpha.
I guess Midphilia kind of died, right? We're done with her, so that's.
I guess, yeah.
I feel that the emotional pull though for this particular expansion didn't really weigh on, because it was all focused on our characters. So we did see other characters die, and you kind of felt this helplessness. But at the end, it's even though I knew we had plot armor, I was scared for our character. And so you get dragged on this emotional trip. At least I did, based on like, I don't know how we're gonna make it out of this. Like, I know eventually we can, but
Like
I don't
something
know how
bad's gonna happen.
Yeah, how are we gonna get here? Are we actually going to turn? Kind of a thing. Are they gonna have to fight us? Are we? Because
that would have been so cool.
Yeah,
if you could play the bad guy and you fight him.
Yeah, like they could have killed off a character that way, I suppose. But there were such heavy implications.
That would have been fucked up if we were the reason they died.
But it was just these implications of who we actually are. Like, we're fighting the Asians, but we are an Asian.
Asian or Asian? I don't know how to say that right.
Potato.
Okay. Cool.
I probably switched saying it depending on the day.
Okay.
But it was, I got this emotional feeling of like a personal triumph. So even though because the overarching theme of the expansion isn't despair, it's hope. And so you get met with despair early on, and then you're overcoming it, kind of thing. Or your solution to it starts to be not such a fine solution, and there's all this unsurety. So for me, the emotion was this really epic feeling of, oh shit, that's what we're doing. That's who we are. That's why we're so important. As well as we finally got over that hump. We finally got through that. And I think that's still fair to say that you had an emotional experience from that. You know, I mean, we've lost other characters, but I never felt that emotional attachment to them. At least I didn't get much of a reaction for like Papalymo and from, I
was sad when Emmett died. I really liked Emmett.
He was the bad guy, man.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't the bad guy. He was just the antagonist to our story.
Yeah, the bad guy. Our story matters.
He
was going to kill everybody. He's the bad guy.
We ended a world.
Here's the thing. He was going to kill a lot of people, but to him, everyone he knew was already dead, and in a lot of ways,
he was trying to bring back his entire civilization.
Like I had pity for him. I have pity for all the Asians.
It made them much more human. You know, you could relate to it.
They took, like, pre-Shadowbringers, the Asians were this borderline cartoonish villain group that we just were like, oh, they're here, shit's gonna get fucked up. But like now Shadowbringers comes along and suddenly like they're humanized. We know their goal. We sympathize with them, and it's like, oh no, we gotta kill them.
I was doing the fucking Praetorium and just like fighting La Habrea. It's like, fuck.
Somebody in chat says they were Organization 13, but I have literally called this game. This game is Kingdom Hearts if Kingdom Hearts was well written. Like Shadowbringers is literally a well written Kingdom Hearts.
Okay. No, I want to speak a little bit on that, Merri, too. I did. It wasn't. What's the other one? Not Praetorium. The first one is Castrum something.
Oriens.
And you guys see how they changed it, right? Where you're forced to go through every cutscene. That's the first time I've done it in a while. I don't know if that's a new change or. But I went. Yeah. And so I was going through every single cutscene, and it was kind of weird because all the NPCs, all the bad guys stopped. You can't die during them. So they made it work out pretty well. But when you start going through that whole process, you get to La Habrea at the end of Praetorium. It's pretty. You feel not. I don't know. It doesn't feel the same it did back then because, like what you said, Merri.
I hated him back then. It's like, fuck this guy. We got to kill him. But then now it's like, he's just trying to get his friends back. He's just so like lost in despair and fucking everything after eons.
There was just this part where Emmett was like, I am an eternal being. You guys last for seconds in my scope of time. If I kill you, it's not murder. And I was like, I kind of understand his point of view.
Well, it's like he thought of us as half people. Like, you're not even alive, so I can't murder you. I'm like, okay, Corey. All right. somebody's taking a note from our videos. But yeah, it was it was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense. Like, we weren't supposed to happen technically.
Yeah.
We were just a byproduct. But as far as like our character goes, just like what they were saying, like, you've been rejoined this many times, and it's like, wait, what? And it's like, you wouldn't remember this, the majesty of the city. So what do you mean?
Oh my God!
The way
during the Calusia quest chain where you're getting the lift, he says, "Not like you would remember." I was immediately like,
yeah, with
"We're
the dialogue.
Asian."
So can we talk about that?
Yeah,
a second?
they made a very heavy reference to that. Go ahead, Merri.
Well, so not even just that, but with the one cutscene in Amarat where you're sitting, and the one Amaratine shows up and is talking to you, and he like still has his memories or whatever. He's like, I guess he just didn't think to make me not have my memories.
Yeah, he slipped up.
Fully aware. But he basically seems to infer that you're probably the one who was on the console who left. Like, you're the soul of that one person who left, and also probably the person who summoned Heidelin. That's what I took away.
That's what happened.
Yeah, I have this like weird off the wall theory that Amaratine that is talking to us may, like, I just have this weird theory that might have been us back then.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. Is like, maybe that's who I am, and maybe we're Emmett's old friend that left him and summoned the Eidolon.
Because that would give good reason for Emmett to be like distracted while he's creating our past self. Like, he would be like,
no, this one might fuck up. Yeah, because I mean, he did say that he was like, he had the thought that something could go wrong, and that's probably why it happened, and that's what the assigns are. If they just think a little bit off, something bad will happen, or like they'll mess up. It's really easy just to be too powerful and create something that you didn't mean to.
And also the fact that he saw Ardbert when we're the only one who's ever seen.
Well, Ardbert's supposed to be us. We're Ardbert.
Exactly. Yeah.
The thing is, like
he might. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say, I don't think Hythlodaeus is us, because
I'm sure he's not. I just like the thought. It's fun.
They make a reference directly, like, oh, so you know that aura of yours is unmistakable. You're him, or she, or her.
Yeah,
depending on
yeah.
And so I think it's, obviously Hythlodaeus was a friend of Emmett's, but also potentially a friend of, say, whoever your character was.
Maybe, yeah.
And I will say also, I didn't care about Ardbert or the Warriors of Darkness at all before this expansion, but they became some of my best. I thought they were so like, whatever. We saw them for a second. They were on a moon. Then they would fight them, and then I forget that they existed for a while. Then we come back to it, and I felt like they belonged where they were in the story. It felt right to me.
There's a lot of really heavy implications as to what we might be going forward in the story with for the job quests, and that's really interesting.
So I'll say this again. I didn't do the job quest or anything else, but you guys, we can talk about it because that's on me. So what are you talking about with those implications?
The role quests, rather, the 4 role quests.
Oh yeah,
they pretty much explain how the Flood of Light happened and why it happened and who is responsible. Obviously, Asians are responsible, but there is an NPC that exists right now in this world. Their name is, what is it, Sylvia or something? I can't exactly remember their name, but it's something like that. But they're actually from the 13th. They were brought over from the 13th, and they fought with the Warriors of Darkness. But they were kind of a double agent working with the Asians to bring about what they were meant to do. Is they were meant to help the Warriors of Light of the First get their crystals of light, like perform heroic acts and get crystals of light, so that the light would start becoming an imbalance. Their whole goal was to make sure that that shard was teetering on the brink of a flood of light. At the end, what they were intending to do was have Ardbert kill them, Like Silva wanted Ardbert to kill them at the end of their mission. After they had successfully gotten all of the other warriors their crystals of light, they were supposed to specifically not let Ardbert get his crystal of light, because if he did, it would cause a flood. Ardbert spared her, and due to sparing her, got his crystal of light. And that right there is what created the flood of light.
Huh.
So it's also implied that the 13th is recoverable by using the light from the first, which I predicted about halfway in the story. So there's a good chance we're going to use the Crystal Tower to flood all, like take all the light and just channel it and just shoot it like a cannon at the first shard. Or the 13th shard. We're just light gun, bang, bang. 13th is back alive, and it will undo the flood of light in the first.
That's not a bad theory.
I'll have to see what happens with Eden, too.
Well,
I think Eden's going to be a big part of it.
yeah, and I love that. I love the fact that I know on Tuesday I'm continuing the story.
I know, I'm so excited.
Yeah, right?
Hell yeah.
That feels so good.
Like it's raids. Like I'm excited to raid, but I'm so much more excited to know what the story is going to be about.
Yeah. Got it. They did that perfectly. And I'm so glad that they finally decided to make that happen. Instead of going that same route of like, oh, some side story you got to complete, because that literally killed my passion for raids.
Because Coil was so good.
Yeah.
The story was so good. And then it's like, cheesecake, am I right?
Okay, so I will say this. The defense that people had before is like, I don't want anything challenging in my story-based game.
It's got story mode now.
Yeah.
It's not the normal raids.
Yeah, it has been there. I mean, it's going to be slightly difficult. You have to play with other people, right? You don't have a trust system.
No, you can do it.
And man, you know what bothered? Okay, this happened last night. I was doing my expert, and it's called it's called Armot or whatever the dungeon, the main story quest dungeon. Emerald. And so you're going through it. By the way, the best fucking like dungeon that they've made in the game.
Oh, shit.
It was intense. Even like the bosses were kind of like their normal bosses and everything, but the zone and the environment and everything else, and the very end where you see the planet in the background, perfect. I don't know how they're gonna fucking top it. I felt like they went way too high.
There's a Reddit thread that I was linked earlier. Basically, everything that happens throughout Amarot is like 1-to-1. Like it's Revelations. It's the Book of Revelations, except like told in this game.
That's neat.
It's really interesting, yeah.
I hope they one-up themselves and they find that next level, because like I'm kind of concerned that my bar is raised too high right now. But anyways, going back to me doing this dungeon last night, we had a new healer, and we died multiple times on bosses because they fell on the end. They fell off the edge. On one of the other bosses, they stood and stuff, and they're like, "Sorry guys, it's my first time." I'm like, "It's okay. I don't care. I'll pull single pull. We'll go through and we'll do this very slowly, and I just want you to complete it because this is important. This is a big part of the story." We get to the last boss. He falls off the side once, and then he dies to something else on the second time. I think it was the Apoc that hits the middle, and he just didn't go to the side, and he just leaves the group.
Aww.
I felt so bad. I was like, you were there. All you had to do was just stick through it, man. I would have done everything. Covered hallowed ground. We would have made it. I would have tried to carry it as much as I could, and we would have done it. And I feel so bad because I know these players exist out there that just have a lot of difficulty doing this content, doing anything that's like working with other players and doing bosses. And I know they're going to have that effect in Eden, even if it's like normal mode. And all I could really say is just, if you really love the story, just try to figure out how to play the character and do the raid. It's not too difficult. The level is not that high up there, and you will have to do a little bit of work, but it's worth it. And I feel like that's important, and that's something that's been missing from the game, is striving to make yourself a better player and getting rewarded with story at the end of it. So we'll see.
I have something else to add about Amarot specifically. Not just the dungeon, but the entire city and the whole idea of it. We won't get too deep into it here because it'd be a whole fucking conversation.
God is a bureaucracy.
Talk about everything. I don't care.
Well, no, this goes a bit deeper. So
Okay.
if you are looking for some really interesting reading and some background and lore, Amarat, the city, is actually based off of a book written by Thomas More, is like back in the fucking 1500s or something, called Utopia. And
That's where Hyphlodius is from as well.
What?
Yep.
Mhm.
The city of Amarat is actually taken directly from that book. And so if you want to do some research, look up Utopia by Thomas More and just like read a little bit about it and like the ideas behind it, because it could give some really good context as to what the Amaratine society was like, or other cities, because the whole idea of Utopia is Amarat's the capital and there's a bunch of other cities as well.
Oh, I didn't know that at all. Like, I had no clue. I thought they came up with this completely.
Yeah, that's what I found that out when I looked up, because the guy who talks to you on the bench, Hyphlodius, I looked up his name and that the book came up and he's a character in that book.
Yep.
Okay. I love, man, I gotta say, going into that last zone, and everyone hyped me up for it and just saying, oh, this is an underwater zone. Like, all right.
Oh my God, I was in awe. I was in absolute awe.
Yeah, getting to the city was it made it perfect. Fucking best thing they could do to end this game is give us something like that. And I love going and talking to all the people in the city and just kind of learning more about it and figuring out kind of what they're doing
and stuff.
And they're all crazy beast maker people. They all make beasts and
they're God.
Yeah.
They're literally God. They think of things and create it, and they're just like, this lives in the world now.
Yeah,
Yep.
it was. What I really enjoyed about that area was the music, but only when like, so you're just in the main area, you're not at Amarat yet, and it kind of has this note that kind of dips, and it sounds like it's going to get dissonant, and then it hits off into the melody, so it just kind of pads, and it felt this like it gave this ominous feel, like I'm like, oh, something's up, something's lurking, kind of a thing. That's the feeling I got, and then I actually get to Amarat, and it changes a little bit, but it still hits that note, and it just felt sad. Like there's this hopeful, this peaceful, this kind of dreamlike atmosphere with it. And then I'm just like, this is Emmett Selk's emotion, like behind all of this. Like he's here, he has this comfort of something familiar, and then the sad feeling that it's still gone, that he's still fighting for it. Like Soken just knocked the whole thing out of the park this whole time.
I
fucking God.
Especially.
I can't get over it.
It was, I feel it every time.
The Amarat song in particular too, like it's, you know, the same theme but just different. There's also like a little clock ticking, a little
Like
metronome.
time is running out, man.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, dude.
I will say, I'm gonna bring this up because I saw it and I just like looked at it and I gotta take a screenshot of it. When you're talking to the one Amarat citizen and they're saying, oh, this is where we have discussions. And they were talking about, we have little rooms where we go and talk. We have smaller rooms. We have these other rooms where we can have these discussions. Can you go get my friend over here?
The debate hall, right?
Yeah, I loved it.
Go and debate.
It was the best thing I saw, and it made me so happy. It hit me in the heart.
When you're an eternal being, it's like that's all you have is conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
So that just goes to accentuate even more like how lonely Emmett is. Because his entire civilization is gone.
Yep. And
Do you think anybody would like an eternity just talking with La Habrea? Fuck no.
So I actually have some really interesting stuff that pertains to the story and pertains to Nier. So I'm making I have a whole video I'm doing about this and going real in depth. But I'll give you guys the nitty gritty. So as you're going through, there are some side quests in Amarat. One of them,
I know exactly what you're talking about.
You're going through and you're talking to one of the Amaratines, and he's waiting in line at the bureau to have one of his concepts like registered. And he mentions that he has developed automatons that are fiendishly complex but completely devoid of emotion, who will follow orders without question, even if it gets them.
And that is literally Nier.
And then later, there's others where they're debating. And they're debating whether or not they're going to go to the aid of a metropolis across the sea that's facing a like unprecedented calamity. And so it seems pretty heavy-handed that this dude is the one who made the Yorha, automatons basically.
I'm so excited. I read that side quest because it's part of the side quest where you're learning about creation and you get a cluster for the reward, which I thought that was cute. It's like, what do you mean you don't know how to use this? He just hands you a cluster. It's like, make something, idiot.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty awesome.
What, you forgot how to breathe too?
Yeah.
But I read that line where he's like, I'm here to present my automaton. I was like, that's it.
Yeah, that's makes me feel pretty good because I was like, how are they going to put Nier in this game? It's going to be so out of place, and they're weaving it in right in there, and I didn't see how until you said so, Merri.
It's called Yorha Dark Apocalypse. What did they have?
Yeah,
it's going to be weird to think about this, because like what we were witnessing was a memory of Amarat. So like, how are we, like, if they're talking about that, that's way in the past. That's like before we could even begin to think of how old that is. So like, I wonder how they'll incorporate that.
Maybe Emmett Selk's manifestation stretched further than we thought.
That's potentially. I mean, to be fair, we walked through a door and ended up in Amarat ending. Like we walked through a door and ended up in outer space, watching the world end. So we could just walk through a door and be in whatever world Nier took place in. I don't know the name of.
I feel like that. So as soon as that happened and we went in there, I was like, "Holy fuck! They're really going super anime crazy here at the end." Like it was just, we're going into a whole fucking explode. He just like, here's a door. It was going to be my office, but it's an exploding city. Then they shoot you above the world and everything else, and it was just overly epic. Like again, it feels like it was way too much.
I'm getting chills thinking about it.
It's so good.
So good.
Yeah.
You know what gives me chills every single time I think about it is when you choose your text with Artbert and everything's white in the background, and then the music kicks up when you click your text choice. It gives me chills every time, every single fucking time.
Yeah. And it does feel weird knowing that we killed someone as powerful as Emmett. It doesn't feel right, but then again, when they start to like say maybe you're as powerful as him, maybe you're an Ascian or something else, and they show that quick flash of you being an Ascian and disappearing.
Yeah, well, we're nearing completion. Like with every shard, they're still making us stronger. So they're going towards a goal, but hurting themselves in the process because we just exist. So it's a really like it's just so deep, and that's what I love about these stories is that you've been going through this whole thing, getting invested in it, and it's not even like the top. It's barely the top layer. Like there's so many more levels to go through that they're just kind of unraveling here.
I want to know. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say. So basically, when a rejoining happens, we become more powerful. Is that the gist that I got?
Yeah.
So are we like Highlander?
Well, like they said with Arbert, like he's a shard of our soul. So every time that the rejoining happens, our soul is empowered because we're becoming whole again. So, and that's why we were able to contain the light after Arbert. Basically, he like kind of fused with us because as soon as he was like, all right, this is my time to help you out. And then he kind of went off on his own. I think I'm not sure how. I think,
that makes more sense because I was kind of curious because they didn't really explain it too well. They're just like, Arbert just shot this fucking axe through the dude and killed him. And it was, you see him kind of at the end in the cutscenes and everything else where he's walking towards his friends. Does that mean he's gone? Or it's like, what is he going to come back and talk to us? I'm assuming he's going to come back and just be in the back of our mind because he said he'll be with us till the end. It felt really like, wow, you really love me. Again, all the characters are like that. He is us.
Arbert is you.
I know.
He was such a good plot device going into the inn. I loved that spacing with the narrative.
Yeah.
It was so well done. And just him in general, it was a really good thing, like especially on the attack. He's kind of watching you, but also he's trying to help people. Like that's all he wants to do is help people.
God, where he was trying to stop the Sin Eater and he just goes right through it. Please let this work. That was the first part. The post cutscenes to that was the first part in the story that made me cry.
That's where I'm saying like that's where the emotion was, is that you're feeling his helplessness through this whole thing, and then you just get that kind of that relief at the end that we finally freaking made it through it. Like that was such an actual trial for us.
Man, yeah. God damn, whoever wrote this story needs to write every single story going forward. They're just
The
never.
lady that did the Dark Knight story.
It's insane.
She's a genius. She's making amazing.
And the thing is, the reason they're good is because we know what they're talking about. She knows the story really well to be able to weave this out for us, and that's insane. I don't know.
If you think about it, the Dark Knight storyline, like when you started out, sorry for spoilers, anybody who hasn't done it, but
it's about us. Like it's very self-circled. Like, and it's the same with Shadowbringers. Is it followed that same sort of narrative where it's about us, and it makes it so that it's more personal for us.
We don't just stoically take what comes at us. We're dealing with something. We're faced with it. So where Dark Knight had Frey, we have Ardbert, who's voicing our concerns, voicing our fears, our humanity.
Voicing us.
Yeah.
At the end.
Oh my god,
dude, I fucking screamed.
Oh, it was so good.
Yeah.
I cannot imagine seeing that if you play a female character.
Male character, I'm like, fuck yeah, dude.
Like when my character stood up and did that, I was like, oh. But if I was like a little female Lalafell, I'd have been like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Oh, but also like talking about that scene, and going through like what I was saying with that we were rejoining, that when he's like heroes beyond the rift, I'm like, he's about to complete us, and he fucking summons our other. That's what I thought it was.
That was
that was cool.
It was like, oh no way! Like they actually did that, and it was like, there's no way he can stand up to us at that point. Like he's helping us along this entire time, thinking like he's either going to be strong enough to help or he's going to die, kind of a thing, or she, whatever. But just like at the end, like you didn't know that we would complete, and then the fact that we had all that light at our disposal. Once we were able to actually contain it, once we became a viable vessel for it, he didn't stand a chance.
Yeah,
like that was it. That was his undoing kind of thing. It was just such along with having all our other parts with us, like a complete us. We just did the whole other thing that Heidelin did to Zodiark. It was just kind of a replaying of that.
We had 7 friends come and join us to kill that were just equally as powerful, and it felt right. I don't know, it just felt like, again, going and killing a god, we would need 7 people who might possibly be gods to kill him.
Well, so here's the thing. It gets like real deep if we're going down that road.
Of course.
So with we find out that basically the Warriors of Light, like the primary Warrior of Light from probably every shard, is a part of our soul, basically, is what it seems to be implied. And so the 13th Warrior of Light, who was born too late, is Unokalhai, and he was spirited away by Elidibus to our world, and he's the Warrior of Light. And if you'll recall, at the end, Elidibus says he's going to set the Warrior of Light against us.
Is that, am I mistaken in thinking that's the kid from the Warring Triad? And you know, now we know the outfit he's wearing too.
Yes.
The Amaratine outfit.
You're right. Oh my goodness. I didn't even notice that.
He's dressed like he's from Amarat.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
I think it's implied that, or at least I think what part of the plot is the idea that maybe Elidibus is going to try to have Unokalhai absorb us.
Oh, we join him instead of him joining us. Okay.
The other way around.
And Urianger was part of all that too, wasn't he? Like facilitating that?
No,
because I remember him being there.
Dark and stuff.
Yeah, he's done with it, I think. Isn't he from the Void though? Was that what
was from the Void shard?
The 13th shard, yeah.
That was okay.
Jesus Christ. Yeah, and man, imagine this guy, we have 1 Ascian left. Is he just going to stay alive for the rest of the... What?
There's more than Elidibus left.
Is
There's
there?
Totally more. Yeah, right?
He's the last like actual Amaratine.
Oh, okay.
The other Ascians are Ascians that they created from.
Oh, okay. Which are all named after Final Fantasy 12, motherfuckers. Oh, boy. Good old. What is it? The Academia. Oh man, the lore in there was nuts. I really like that dungeon.
It was so good. I don't ever see it again because I always go back to Armorat. Every time I do expert, that's the one it is.
I always get twinning.
Really?
Yeah, me too.
I felt like they did a pretty good job showing us the shark guy, the shark boss. All I could think was the Street Sharks. Is that like the show for back in the day?
Everybody has said that. Literally everybody.
I'm looking forward to it.
That was pretty awesome.
Hopefully I get to it this weekend.
It's awesome. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Are you waiting for Corey?
Yeah, I've been. He's going through story right now. I was running the.
When you guys run that, I'd love to be in voice with you. I want to hear it.
Yeah.
If you guys have any room,
I'll see if because I don't know if my wife has done it yet. So we're gonna try and get as many people that haven't done it as possible.
Oh,
but
yeah,
we'll definitely bring you in on voice.
Okay.
Absolutely.
It's awesome, man. I love going through it, man. Again, going and reflecting on all this stuff. I'm sorry, I haven't even looked at the notes in like an hour.
That's fine. I mean, it's such a good thing just to kind of like go over. It's been what was the other thing that was really stuck out to me? Gosh, I had it in my head and it was. I'll say it again if I think about it, but
yeah, as soon as you just write it down or say it, and we'll go on it. But one big note that I kind of saw throughout this entire story too is while we're talking about Hydaelyn and Zodiark, throughout it, we didn't really have a lot of interaction with them, right? We've had interaction with them or at least Hydaelyn, we've had interaction with them, but we mainly just kind of learned. It felt like we just learned about them more than anything else, right?
Mm-hmm.
It felt kind of odd. For some reason, I felt like we were going to kill Hydaelyn, or we're gonna, like when the expansion was announced. Go ahead.
It's still not certain if Hydaelyn is bad or not, you know? Like we don't know what's going on entirely.
Or if she actually tempered us, kind of a thing. Because Emmett Silk says that they got tempered, and he's just like, oh yeah, matter of fact. But we don't know what Hydaelyn's thing is. Because he said that Hydaelyn overpowered Zodiark, but the way that I remember it being told in the story before was that Hydaelyn only could beat Zodiark by splitting the realms to imprison him. Because he was stronger than her. She had to do that decisive blow somehow. That's how I remember it. It might have been weird. What's weird with it now is that, yeah, we've had this great threat. Xenos has become the biggest threat in my mind all of a sudden. Because he's like, now that I know about everything, you're going to absorb Hydaelyn, I'm going to absorb Zodiark, and we're going to fucking fight.
Yeah, dude.
That was his whole thing. And he's like, let's do this, bitch. Like, we're going. I'm just like, oh, Xenos, I love you, but not like this. We can't do this.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh shit. Like, so he might actually be championing rejoining just to have that chance.
It's so weird, right? Seeing this guy come back from Stormblood that we were like, we're done with, and now he's still a major part of the story. It feels like it, I don't know, it just doesn't feel right, because Stormblood doesn't feel like it had a good, solid ending because he's still around and running around and doing stuff.
I'm stoked because I was like, okay, but how the fuck are they going to top this expansion? You know, how are they going to raise the stakes? If we go back to some war with Garlemald, I feel like it's not going to have as much impact as saving an entire fucking world. But if suddenly it gets escalated more than just a war with Garlemald to a war between fucking gods, like that's
but then how do they top that? It's like
Final Fantasy 17.
Way back in the day when they were still doing Second Coil, I remember one live letter said that they had worked on the story up to 5.0. So it may peak at some point, and then they may go on to work on the next project pretty soon, or they have one more expansion in them. But honestly, like, it's, oh man, it's just,
I feel like we're gonna look back on Shadowbringers. I feel like this is the expansion we're gonna look back on as like the glory days of 14.
The Wrath of Lich King for those WoW players. Yeah,
a really good chance.
It's been mentioned that 14 has like a definitive end to like this whole thing, and I think what's gonna happen is we might reach that end, but I don't think that means 14's ever probably gonna slow down.
Oh, no.
Final Fantasy 11 still hasn't. And like once this is all wrapped up, this whole Hydaelyn Zodiark storyline, they'll probably just do something new. I mean, it's Final Fantasy. We could go to Vanadil.
Yeah, I mean, if
there would be a lot of people screaming about that. Oh man!
Even if they made a new game though, like a new MMO, and did the same thing, like I'm fine if they have a definitive end to it, because we get to do it with people. We get to do it with each other. It's been a journey together, like the ultimate cooperative experience, and I would be ultimately satisfied with that, to go on to the next new adventure. As bittersweet as it would be, because I definitely feel like that pang in my chest, like right after you finish a really good book and it's over, that show that you've been so invested in, it's done. Like you're so happy, but so empty at the same time. That's how I felt with Shadowbringers. Just the end of that, I just want more.
Right.
You don't want it to end.
Yeah, but if they come up with a good ending, then
I mean, they made this story end pretty well with wanting more. I feel like if they ended it even this way, maybe a little bit more than how they ended it here, then we'd be okay. And that would be an interesting step for MMOs to take, is to say, hey, this MMO, we're going to end it with this story and start a new game, which would be perfect for a game that has such spaghetti programming code as Final Fantasy 14, wouldn't it?
That would be such a silver lining, as if they could just make a new engine or something.
Yeah. Absolutely, and that gives them a chance to go forward with everything. And no MMO has is there an MMO out there that has stopped and said, "Hey, this is the end"? That hasn't just gone out of business?
Well, I feel like no other MMO has had such an emphasis on story like this one has.
Yeah.
And
so it's definitely like uncharted territory.
Yeah, it's a unique thing to Final Fantasy and stuff, and people have their criticisms. I know there was a video out about the story and the leveling and stuff not being great, but I mean, if you like story-driven games, then this is definitely a great game for that. And if they want to take that route, then I think more power to them. They pseudo did it with 11, because 11 is no more story. They capped on it. It's still up, but there's no more story. They could do the same thing. Like we will come back and play it, but like if they were going to be like, hey, new adventure's waiting for you, that'd be amazing.
I'm sold. I mean, if the same people who are involved with the Final Fantasy 14 right now move on to another MMO, I'd buy it in an instant. I wouldn't even think about it.
Absolutely.
I'd pre-order it 5 years in advance.
Yeah.
I don't even care. But man, there's a lot of other little things that we can talk about here. Is there anything on your track? You wrote it down. I think you wrote it down earlier, didn't you?
That was the Xenos thing.
Okay, the Xenos thing.
Yeah,
I got something.
Sure.
It's not like super important to the story, but just overall to Shadowbringers is the way Soken presented music.
Yeah.
And
oh my god, it's so good. I can't wait for the soundtrack to come out.
Something that like really struck me, and I didn't notice it at first. I noticed it with some of the dungeons, but every single dungeon, its track is a modified version of the zone music. So like Amarat music is the Amarat or the Tempest zone music. With what's the one that really stuck out to me? It was Mount Gulg.
Yeah,
it's just
that
was
really remix. Holy crap, that one's fantastic.
Yeah, but the music is so perfectly crafted to like put you in the mood for what the dungeon is. So like when you're going up Mount Gulg, it's like heroic and the fucking talons is like smashing shit, and you're like, I'm gonna go. We're ending this. And it's just like you feel.
Oh my god! And then Innocence's music was so good, dude. Like, holy crap, dude! It was so amazing.
I guess honestly, we haven't really talked a lot about what led up to Innocence. With those characters, two main bad guys that we were facing the whole time. Ranjit, who was kind of.
Ranjit, I feel like had a really anticlimactic ending to his whole arc.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I felt like it would be more.
It's gone.
He was the powerful one. He was the one that was like, holy shit, the entire story. You're like, if he's here, we have to run. That was what the story was.
He was the Xenos of this story, but way less important.
And he just kicked the train? Like, what was it? He just like touched it or something and it flipped way off track, or what was it?
He's what Monk should have gotten.
It was pretty silly. It felt cool going through the story, seeing him as such a, like, you saw him and you were afraid. You're like, this is a problem. This is a big deal. And going into a solo instance fight to beat him didn't feel right. It felt kind of off. Because it was, to me, too easy. But
yeah, I mean, at least character design wise, I thought it was really, really cool.
Oh yeah, he looks sick. He reminded me of an old Final Fantasy character from like an earlier game.
So I'm kind of, I wish they gave us more about him. I felt like we knew some, but we didn't get like a lot of backstory with him, right? We just knew that he was there, and he felt like he was doing the right thing by making this weird, crazy, sick dystopia thing that was going on.
Well, they did a really good job of just like every fucking side character I loved. I feel like they did such a good job writing them. And Ranjit in particular, like, yeah, he was just like evil villain, but at the end, like so many other characters, you just immediately feel bad for him because you find out he spent his entire life watching, you know, the basically a daughter to him just constantly fucking die over and over again. And it's just like, he just had enough.
I don't know. I felt like that relationship was very abusive, and like I didn't feel like I didn't. Maybe I read it wrong, but it didn't feel like he like loved her. It just saw her as like a tool. Right? No,
I did it at the end. He basically like says, you know, we've went through this so many times, and I've seen you die so many times.
Yeah.
You know? Okay.
He was basically broken by it. So yeah, he was twisted at the end, but he only got that way because he cared so much for her, to the point where he was fighting Thancred like, you don't know what it's like to actually be a father to her.
Yeah.
Like, you haven't gone through what I went through with her. I'm doing what is best for her. And that was what he thought, to protect her, even if it was a gilded cage. He wasn't keeping her down for the reason, what's his face? Big Chungus.
I can't remember his name either. I don't.
Vothri.
There we go.
So he just don't want the challenge. But yeah, like Ranjit, I think really had a twisted but legitimate affection for Minfilia.
Okay. Yeah, Vothri was. It was such an interesting thing that he was in the background for so long. I felt like he was in the background for. He was kind of there every once in a while. Who come out on the speakerphones on like the flying ship and everything, but like you really start to see him near the end. Like I felt like we didn't have that interaction for a while. It was mainly Ranjit, and then we get to him. And they did him pretty well when he's just like eating, and he's like, I don't care about anything, and he just like eats the whole fork, and you know, fucking crazy.
I knew he was a Sin Eater. I knew it from the beginning. And then there was that one cutscene, like kind of halfway through the story, where you see like the Sin Eater's face on his clothing, and I was like, yeah, he's one of the Light Wardens, 100%.
Yeah, and he was eating Sin Eater, right? Yeah, and he was feeding it to people so he could control them and everything else. It made him pretty powerful in that way, but there's.
I hate how they made me feel for him at the end, like just that little bit. It's like his dad was the one who did it. Like, so he's raised to be this freaking brat.
Yep.
This whole time, but I mean, like before then, it's like, yeah, keep running your mouth. That's where I'm gonna punch you. I'm not happy with you right now. But then it's like, gosh dang it. Even he had like, he's a dick, but it wasn't all his fault. I'm just like, I don't want to feel like this for you. I just want to kill you and be done with it.
Yeah, he was absolutely a piece of shit, but he was a piece of shit because that's what he was raised to be.
Oh man, like a literal god complex. Just yeah, Junior, you're god, everything, and like having no reason to doubt it. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then
something else.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, you.
Okay. So something else we could talk about is just like the prevalence and the story-driven instances that we got, and just how powerful those were as a means of telling the story compared to previous ones we've gotten.
Yeah, no, it felt definitely like the story was laid out pretty well for us. To us, maybe, who've been playing this game for a very long time, this game wasn't challenging at all. Shadowbringers, we just kind of went through it. You could cruise through it pretty easily. But it still felt good. It felt like all the scenarios and everything else that you were doing throughout the story, like the little solo instances, everything, felt right.
One in particular that really stood out to me as like probably one of the most intense moments of the entire MSQ for me was when Vothri attacks Lakeland and everyone's just like fucking dying, and you're like just running through trying to save all these soldiers who are getting murdered by Sin Eaters. Like I was playing Gunbreaker through the MSQ, so like as I'm running through, I'm like throwing Aurora on soldiers and like using Heart of Stone and like trying to keep them alive, and it's just like I was in it. Like I was like, I gotta save all these people.
And then there's that one part where you get to a group and they all die, and you're like, just like a second too late.
Like, yeah.
And just keeping count on the side. How many soldiers are surviving? It's like, stop telling me.
Yeah,
I'm trying my best.
But like they did such a good job of just like, if you care enough, like putting you in the moment and just like completely immersing you.
And the story made us care. That's the biggest thing.
Yeah. Or like Raktika, where you're going through the temple with the Stola and like just like the boulder scene. I love that.
It was kind of interesting to see that happen. And then we were running from boulders the entire time. It worked out pretty well.
Yeah, like they crafted so many really, really solid solo instances that help. Like
I usually hate solo instances, but they all felt fun this time. I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's see what cool quirk they've got for me this time.
Yeah.
I'm so mad at the Raktika maze bit where you're playing Ocarina of Time.
Oh yeah,
because I'm like, they're like, be quick about it. Don't let them see you, and they're just lollygagging in the back. I'm like, hurry the hell up! I'm waiting on you. Come on, Yashola. Sassing me all the other time. Pick it up. But yeah.
And then finally brought back the mechanic from 03S or 03 normal, I guess. With the sliding.
Oh yeah.
That made me happy.
Yeah, they took it out in Savage. They're like, we don't want you to have it. I was like, I was happy it was back. They did a lot of throwbacks to some of the previous mechanics that I think people liked, and I appreciated it. And that was also a good scene to talk about, like Y'shtola dying there for half a second.
Well, I never thought she died because
neither did I.
Like
the gust of wind or whatever.
Yeah, I thought she used like wind magic or something to soften her.
Yeah, I thought it was a lot simpler.
I did too.
I can hope.
I was thinking that, that was supposed to be a thing where she falls down and she hit something that exploded or something when she hit it. I don't know. There was something in there. Of course, it didn't affect Ranji, and he just, whatever, I don't need to go into the Aether. I just live and come back and kill you later.
Yeah.
Right?
Probably kicks the wall.
Yeah.
This isn't.
Yeah, it kicked us way back up eventually.
I hit the floor lost.
But yeah, bringing him back. I mean, I think that was, of course, one of the scenes where they wanted us to feel a little bit more for Emmett because, like, oh, maybe Emmett's not a horrible person. Just brought my friend back.
I liked Y'shtola's new cat boyfriend.
Yeah, that was weird. It was weird to me because I wasn't expecting her to have a love story in some way, but it felt like there was one. Although there wasn't one.
Like, maybe it's one-sided. It's obvious that
Runar's best boy, dude. He's one of my favorite characters. He's so good.
The way that they did her, like, she, for the first time ever, you could see like a vulnerable side to her.
Yeah.
And that was like one of the only things she needed to actually round out because she's just been this hard ass. I'm going to say completely unnecessary things and this for the sake of like tough love. And I'm just like, I'm tired of you. Stop. And then just that happened. I'm like, okay, I'll root for you a little bit.
Yeah.
When she's being carried by him, it was like, whoa, this is really out of place.
Yeah, she like didn't chide him about it or anything. She's just like, oh, you silly. Oh man.
And some people didn't like kind of her personality a bit because she was just harsh the whole time, like at that first part. But I mean, she's one of the only ones that are like, hey, we don't need to trust this guy. I don't fuck, because that answered a question for me, right? I was like, why are we just blindly trusting this person? And then she comes out and says it later on, which, it turns out it wasn't as big of a deal. But I'm glad I didn't feel like I was the only one feeling that. Like, why are we trusting this person we just met to do all these crazy things?
Yeah, even Thancred was just like, we can't, like, he had doubt, but then he's also like, no, it's an Asian. Of course, we're not going to trust him, kind of a thing. And, but it was more like the way that she acts towards her comrades, like, just outright, Thancred, you over Minfilia yet? It's like, damn, bitch. Just
yeah.
People have died. Like, relax.
Yeah.
It's like somebody had to say it. I'm like, leave it to Urianger. He's got the touch. Just the consolidation is not your. That's not the right word. But anyway, you know what I mean. Like,
if you could understand what Urianger was saying,
yeah.
It bugs me because it just stands out way too much in comparison to everything else. Like, he's the only one who talks like that, and so it's just so jarring to hear.
But he's so smart, he has to. If he doesn't talk like that, his IQ slowly plummets.
Yeah, I think that's that's probably what it is, right? And I'm fine with it. I'm fine with the old English stuff. It's just I can't get over it. I have to reread what he says sometimes.
Yeah, that's fair. It's like he was such a shut-in, and he kind of mentions that during the story. It's like I learned the value of my comrades all too late, kind of thing. So he was just this awkward bookworm, only focused on his studies. So that's probably the tomes that he was reading all had Old English. So that's just how he talked. Yeah. Aside from his relationship with Louis Soix, that's just what he did. So, and then you have Sid on the other hand, talking to the girl from the Evilly storyline. He's like, "Hey, layman's."
Yeah,
not trying to impress anybody here.
Yeah,
yeah,
and yeah, because he does seem like he's like a theater nerd, right?
Yeah,
yeah.
Thespian.
So I guess that's a lot of the scenes and situations. We probably should talk the Twitch chat here a little bit and kind of give them a conversation about what's going on.
Hi, chat.
Hey, chat, what's up? But give me a second. What I'd like you guys to do in chat, there's a couple things I need to say before we get into that. I do have a questions sheet. You guys might have been sending them through. We won't be able to get to 1 billion of them. But go in there, submit it if you want to, and we'll try to go over it and discuss it. At least the good questions. If you ask me about Vieira Butts yet again, I might not bring it up. There is one thing. There is one thing that I want you guys to know. Of course, there's been a giveaway picture in the middle of the screen. We are going to be doing that in this section. We'll start the giveaway. We'll start with questions, everything else. While we're answering the questions, we'll have the giveaway going in chat. So if you want to win the head of a decapitated Namazu, who again, main character of last expansion, feel free. And it's only going to be eligible to U.S. residents right now, because I don't have the money for out-of-country shipping, and I apologize to everybody who is out-of-country of the United States. And I do want to go ahead and say thank you, Square Enix, for allowing me to do this giveaway. They did give me to give to, or they gave me this head of a fish to give to you guys. All right. And we'll get to that section in here in just a second. Before we get to our Twitch section, I do have an ad from our sponsor, so hold tight and go through that real quick. It's just a minute or so. One moment, and then we'll get into the after show here, or, well, a Twitch conversation show. I'm going to mute us real quick. I really enjoyed that show. It was really awesome how, that guy said that one thing. It got me thinking. It kind of just, it feels good to hear people talk about stuff like in a format like I wish there was a way that I could just know when this was going on. Maybe I forget sometimes. I know it's like every Saturday, 2 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. EST, but what if I forget and like I'm just sitting there? Oh, but, I'm kind of concerned. I want this to keep happening. I don't. What do I do I want to support the stream? What's this? It's like in the top right corner of my screen. What? But what if I didn't have the money to do a subscription? If I just couldn't do it. Oh, there's an option for me as well. All right, guys, welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking through us with the sponsorship ad there.
Lost one.
We did lose one. We lost Drak in the middle of all this, so I apologize for that. He will be back. I am certain of it. And thank you everybody for listening to that sponsorship there. So I do want to go ahead and get into our first question before we get into the giveaway. I'm going to set up the giveaway while we're going over this question. And it's going to be not to Drac right now because he had to run away. Okay, so this is from Lucifia, I think. If your character became a Sin Eater, what kind of forgiven Light Warden would you have become?
Forgiven flatulence.
Wow.
But you're not. You're not forgiven for that.
What's your real answer?
I don't know, man. I'm not about to talk about my sins.
You don't want to talk about your sins?
Okay. Think from the perspective of your warrior of light. What kind of a person they are?
Forgiven Q Dodger.
Wow.
Okay.
You don't have headcanon for your warrior of light tape?
I'm not into all that stuff, man.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You don't immerse yourself. I guess you kind of jumped into the story just recently, huh?
Okay.
Yeah. I really started getting into it recently. I've got a couple of headcanons built up that mostly my friends have pressured me to make, but I don't know. I don't give that much thought.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Merri?
Not for Balmung, Merri.
Merri, what about you?
I mean, I like to immerse myself in the story a lot, and so my warrior of light is my warrior of light, and
Okay.
while it might not be the most fleshed out thing like some people, if I had to say my warrior of light would be a Sin Eater, it'd probably be something like forgiven apathy, maybe, right?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. Drac, we're talking about if you were going to become a Sin Eater, if your character did go that direction, which one would you have been?
Yeah, I got nothing on that. Like, I watched that whole Twitter thread and I was like, nope. I can't. I can't carry along with it.
I had to vague tweet a bunch of people on that one because everybody keeps making these Sin Eaters and like they're really cool designs. And then I look at the name and I'm like, that's not a sin. So it's like everybody out here with like forgiven eyelash, forgiven toenails, and I'm just like,
like, are we going along with like the 7 deadly sins type deal?
Just whatever would have been forgiven something, because I mean,
would be like an actual sin, like for me. I don't know if you're here for what I said. I said apathy.
Yeah, I mean, I get, I put a lot of me into my characters, so I think my greatest character flaw is my temper, so maybe forgiven wrath. I know that sounds super fucking edgy, but
it does.
Cool.
Yeah,
it's what.
Yeah.
That is the thorn in my side.
Yeah.
I would have been forgiven awkwardness for all the awkward moments I've had when I've been live in certain places.
Is being awkward a sin?
It is. I think so. I think so. It's a sin. And you guys are all guilty. All right.
Like you meet Jesus and you go for a handshake and you mess it up and he's like, "Get out of here! There's a button. You plummet down.
Yeah, you're done. We don't want you." All right. Let me see. I need to create a giveaway. Let me delete this here. There's more work into this than I thought it was. Supposed to hit create. There we go. Never mind. We're going to start next question while I'm working on that. Let's go down to... This is a kind of a question that was asked earlier on. It's maybe not exactly on point, but I think it might be with the story. What's your favorite minion so far in Shadowbringers?
Oh, Shadowbringers. I was about to go on about my Despicable Me fandom.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Shoe Bill.
Shoebill? No, you know, we haven't really talked about Shoebill too much, have we?
Who is Shoe Bill?
Shoebill is another warrior of light, I promise. They're an Ascian, I bet.
People thought Shoe Bill was Emmett. That's been the big thing I've been hearing.
That's funny.
Yeah, it was because he was just like looking. It was, you don't notice it unless if you notice. I guess it was kind of hard not to see it, right?
Well, he's from Amarat too. Like he drops in the Amarat dungeon.
Right, and I got him on the first clear, by the way.
Oh jeez.
Oh wow.
And I gave them to my wife because I use Grinwald and I can't use anything else. So I thought it was pretty funny. I guess maybe like somebody like saw the shoe bill videos that have been going on the internet, one of the developers, and they're like, in the game and make it happen.
Yeah, I mean, shoe bill's been a thing for a while.
Yeah.
It's been in like a lot of popular media. Even fucking Skyward Sword, Zelda, the loft wings are based off shoe bills.
Oh, that's right, isn't it?
Yeah.
I never really thought about that. Okay. Is Tate, Drac, you guys the same? Shoe bill?
The Great Serpent of Ronka, hands down. I got an emote made after them. I'm great. I love them.
I saw that. I was like, oh yeah, he would. Most definitely.
Well, Ishmi made it for their Discord, and I was like, oh, I need an emote of this, and they messaged me and they're like, you could just use this one. I was like, oh,
that's
yes.
great if they give you the permission to do that.
Yeah,
Ishmi's great. I like Black Kayate. I haven't gotten it yet, but just because of the Full Metal Alchemist implication.
You made me a million go.
Okay. While I was doing that, I got the giveaway set up. If you guys want to enter the giveaway to get that plushie provided by Square Enix, the Namasu head, you have to type in the keyword in chat, which I am going to go ahead and announce that it's open. Vieira Butts. No spaces. You got to type that in chat, and if you type that in chat, you guys may win that plushie. You have to be, again, in the U.S. And active when we do the giveaway here, or when we finish it up, when you win. Okay.
I'm gonna enter, and if I win, it's rigged.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys can enter. You guys aren't officially MogTalk members, so it's okay. I don't care. Let's see.
I have too many Namazu heads already.
Do you? Oh yeah, that's right. You do. We all do. Okay. Let's see. This question says, "What is each person's overall opinion of Crystal Eckhart's Eckhart's? I can't say it. Impact." His impact on the story and how he was implemented into Shadowbringers. Like, are you guys happy with his character?
He's a big sweetie pie. I like him.
Everybody wants to fuck him.
I don't want to fuck him. That's weird. Every time I see a Twitter post about somebody wanting to, like, Emmett to break them, or they want to fuck the Crystal Exarch, I like the character a little less, and it's not the character's fault.
Yep.
Let me know who you're following so I can block them.
I have to do that all the time. I have to go in there and say mute tweets and retweets from the particular people in the community who have tons of character porn in there. I don't know.
No, I think it's all in good fun, but
of course, yeah.
No, Crystal Exarch was really good. He was a really good supporting character. I liked how they like made his showed off his awkwardness, and it was very obvious that they just really, really looked up to us. And it was really sweet. I think it was a really good character.
Yeah, I liked him too. He was cool.
Did you guys see the rock candy memes that become the rock candy?
I don't care. I just don't. I don't.
Yep.
I think they did a really good job with him. I'm happy he was there. He looked really cool. I mean, him being part crystal was pretty awesome. And how they explained that the reasons he was there and how he feels towards us and everything else. It felt good. It felt like I had a really good close friend that I didn't really know about as much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and he had limitations, so he wasn't insert OP character. Yeah, and so you kind of got to see his craftiness, that kind of showed with his age.
Yeah,
and but he wasn't crotchety.
Yeah, remember he's like 100-something years old or some stupid shit like that. Y'all want to fuck a grandpa, I swear. And Emmett's even older, dude. Come on.
Yeah.
Y'all gonna end up full of dust at that rate.
Here's the thing: everyone's like wanting to fuck Emmett. You remember he was the emperor. He was a big fat old man with a massive beard and no hair. So keep that in mind.
Fair enough.
All right, I'm gonna do one more question before we actually draw.
Pretty hot, Merri. You're right.
All right, one more question here before we draw the winner. If you guys have not typed Vieira Butts in the chat, you definitely want to do it. Let's see. This is actually
Vieira Butts. I put in Garuda dicks.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
We'll show you guys that image after this if you want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do not. The question is, this is too soon, but what do you guys think of a job that may resemble Ranjit's final form? A scythe welding melee pet user maybe could be a Beastmaster.
Fuck yeah, not
Limited
Beastmaster.
jobs.
That'd be legit.
Oh,
That'd be
limited
cool.
jobs.
If they redid Monk to be that, I'd be totally happy because Ranjit had a great moveset.
Dude, I
Just a
actually
great character overall.
somebody posed an interesting question to me a few days ago. Was they asked me, do I think there will be more jobs in the future? And I had to stop and think, like, will there? This game had so many classes and jobs. Like, it's actually interesting to think about.
I am like 99.9% sure we are getting a hammer-wielding Geomancer healer.
Of course.
I could see that.
Too much evidence. Too much.
We are getting a healer next expansion. If we don't, a third of the population of the game will
There's gonna be
quit.
a riot, dude. There's gonna be a riot.
We may get it before the expansion with how much noise has been made. Who knows? But all right, yeah, it does look like it would be an interesting job to play too. But I don't think we need to care about. I don't know what the other job besides another healer will be.
A caster. We need a caster.
Do we?
We got Blue Mage. Like,
do we?
We don't need any more. We got Blue Mage.
We have 4 melee. We have 3 ranged, and we have 3 casters. So since we just got a ranged, it would make sense to do a caster and a healer, I think.
Yeah. All right, I'm gonna draw, guys. If I don't like the name, I'm gonna redraw. Just kid.
Don't tell me that.
All right, so we have a user named Joey Peace. Joey Peace, if you are in the chat, go ahead and say you're in the chat, and that way we'll know for sure that you're eligible for this. And if for some reason when we're after the show you don't have a U.S. address, I will get another way to give this giveaway out. But
he will kill you.
Ooh.
I didn't say anything. Joey Peace, you're here. Okay, Joey, get with me in Twitch chat. I will whisper you after the show. Don't go anywhere. If I can't get a communication with you in Twitch chat, then it'll be an issue. But after the show, we'll talk and we'll actually get everything organized to get this over to you. So now we have that over. Let's go ahead and get into our next question here. And again, thank you, Square Enix, for allowing me to have that to give away.
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, yeah.
Whoa.
Tate's Square Enix. All right. This is a good question. This is a good question that just came in. I'm just going to go ahead and ask because it involves something that I care about too. What are your expectations on Eden? Do you think that it is an evil being or something that can help us down the line? Like, I guess maybe that would be referred to as like maybe a weapon we could use.
I think Eden's a weapon, personally.
Yeah?
Or it might even be like... So notice that Eden, the top of Eden, I don't know, for those who are familiar with Final Fantasy VIII, the top of Eden kind of resembles Balam Garden a little bit. And there might be a city in Eden. Like, I don't know, it might just be this crazy thing. Like, I'm just excited. I have high expectations for it. Maybe too high, but I am very excited for it.
I am. I mean, it's going to be really... Okay, they could probably fuck it up, but it seems like it's going to be hard for them to fuck it up with how everything's been going so far.
I saw data mines, and I'm sad that I saw them.
I haven't, so don't fuck me over.
No, I'm not. I don't know much. All I saw was the names of each room.
Oh, okay.
So I'm pretty interested, is what I'll say.
I can't wait, dude.
The other question at the end of that was, do you think we'll see actually Guardian forces within that? Maybe from Final Fantasy VIII. We already saw the one, right?
We saw Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah.
It said Guardian Force, and my Final Fantasy VIII fanboy lit up inside me, and I screamed a lot. And I'm like, what? Or because like in the context of how it was summoned, it was literally a Guardian Force. They summoned it to help get Archaeotania, like basically save the academia. Is what Quetzalcoatl was summoned for. So it was quite literally a Guardian Force. So I'm interested to see if that's going to play a picture, a bigger picture later on, to see if that reappears.
Okay. Here is a question from Kai. Do you feel that in the new dungeons, the generic boss music that was used for the first and second bosses kind of pulled you out of those moments?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I was like, whenever I get to twinning, it's like, fuck you. Give me the twinning music.
Yeah.
I want this. Except for the final boss.
And you can't really turn it off, right?
No.
No.
You can turn off battle music in the open world.
Mhm.
I did that.
Yeah, of
So I
course.
can turn on music.
Yeah, that was one thing that I when we were going through the media tours, I was like, this kind of sucks. I don't want to hear this music again for some reason. I just want to be done. All this like interesting new music.
We've heard it for years, man.
Yeah.
I can't believe there hasn't been something new.
Yeah.
I don't like. I just think of Halatali every time. Going back to level like whatever it was, just I'm like I don't want to be here.
It's old. It just pulls you out of it. If it was new, sure, but
Mm-hmm.
Like I like the final boss theme that we get.
Oh yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, and it feels good. It feels, even on the last dungeon, I heard the music and I got amped up.
Yeah.
Right? It always gives me some sort of energy.
It feels like boss music.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, so here's another question. For all we know about the ancient world, the source could still have something left of it. The ancient world in the source. And if
there could be remains. Well, it was stated that the remains would probably have been completely crumbled due to all the calamities.
Yeah.
So on the source, we might not have much of that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know with how unbreakable it is.
It could be similar, like in the ocean.
I think it's durable.
Yeah.
But
the second question to that, and if they go to the Nier storyline that had Yorha, then Yorha had a space station and a base on the moon, so there is still a chance we'll see something that is from back then.
Maybe.
I think Yorha is going to be entirely on the first.
Yeah, I do too.
I think it's going to be the city that they were talking about across the ocean.
Okay.
I'm banking on that with you there.
Yeah.
It makes the most sense right now.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now that I think about it, it does.
Yeah, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to agree with you. That's all I was doing. Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, how dare you? It seems pretty like clear cut that, because the idea of like Yorha, those androids were designed to fight back a, without going too deep into near stuff, like evil alien robots. And so I think the idea is these, this team of Yorha developed by the Amaratines was designed to, kind of fight back against this calamity that's happening in this faraway city because it hadn't reached Amarat yet. And so I think we're going to basically be going there to, kind of see how those events unfolded. Maybe there's,
I think we're going to see, I just want to go in on speculation, and I keep saying it everywhere. I think we're going to see Sin from Final Fantasy X soon.
Yeah? I feel like that would be early.
Well,
you think Blitzball's coming along with it?
Yes, 100%. I just think we've killed all of the Sin Eaters. Like, it's just like this dumb little, there's nothing to eat the sins. The sins aren't being given form anymore, or the sin's gonna grow, and I don't know. It's just like stupid like that. But also, the destruction of Amarat and their whole civilization was brought about by their sins. Like, they were literally destroyed by sin is a way you could put it. So I really think we're gonna see Sin at some point, and I will nut immediately is basically all there is to it, because 10 is my favorite Final Fantasy of all time.
Like, name wise it would work, but I'm trying to because I'm thinking how
then you
how
think
it was
of
done.
Jekt, right? You think of Yevon and Jekt and all that, and it's like, how would they incorporate that?
Yeah, Yevon more than anything. I think they could bring in Jekt, but no. They certainly are not bound by that. I'm just thinking how much of it would they incorporate into it, because they certainly could. But I mean, I'm all for it. I'm not against it.
Okay.
I need to hear Soken cover Otherworld is all there is to it.
Okay, here's another question. What is your favorite side quest chain?
I know Tate's answer.
What are you talking about?
I haven't done too many of them.
Well, I mean, this one didn't give any rewards, but the one with in Calusia with the guy who lost his wife or whatever, and this the Talos thing, that was pretty good. Gave me a little bit of emotion.
Okay.
Just to say something that's not the Great Serpent.
Yeah. I liked the mayor of what's the name of the town? in Colusia.
That's it's the same quest line, isn't it?
Oh yeah.
I think we're talking about the same one.
Yeah.
I do also like kind of how they did some of those side quests, the ones where they forced you to go get them for the Aether Currents. Of course, you're going to do it. But then they were like...
they also had story. They were good.
They're like, here's the story. You don't have to continue the story if you don't want to. But, you know, it's kind of interesting, don't you think? And then you're off to decide what you want to do.
That's what I really enjoyed about Stormblood, is them introducing that. It was so much fun. And so I want to go back and do them all eventually. But yeah, I haven't gotten to a whole lot. I've done Ronnet for the Lollyho, and he was fun.
Yeah.
It was just really cute.
Yeah, I like
love
that
the
one.
dwarves. They're so cool.
They're good. They're good lads.
Here's a kind of a offbeat question here. What do you think some of the more silly parts of the story, like the fact that ENJOYYY confessed he can't swim?
Good.
Yeah,
it's good.
Just good.
There's
seeing him at the very end, just like practically like washed up on the side of the beach, was really funny.
Yeah. There's a side quest. Speaking of side quests, in Ilmeg, where you find out that ENJOYYY basically lied to the pixies and convinced them that he hates tea and biscuits, and so they make them to prank him.
Oh,
that's so good.
Yeah. He acts like he hates them when he's drinking it, and so like, yeah, we're gonna prank him and make him drink this nasty leaf water.
That's so funny.
Yeah.
That's how you deal with little brat kids, dude. You convince them of these little things.
I love ENJOYYY. I think he's my favorite Scion, and that's so good.
Yeah, he's good.
A lot of people love him
now. He talks like an idiot, and I'm like, I don't give a shit.
I don't care that he sounds like a pretentious asshole. Fuck it. He's awesome. All right. Next question. In terms of Hydaelyn, how does the new information relate to the story arc of Midgardsormr trying to separate us from Hydaelyn?
Sorry, could you repeat that?
In the terms of Hydaelyn, how does the new information relate to the story arc where Midgardsormr was trying to separate us from Hydaelyn?
I don't think he was really trying. It didn't feel like he was like, I gotta free you kind of thing. It was just like, let's see if you're really made of what everybody says you are. Like, are you relying on Hydaelyn too much, or are you really strong? So that's why I think he separated us. I don't think there are any other.
It was just a trial.
Implications there. Yeah. The one thing that did have heavier implications was Ramuh saying in the beginning there was no light and dark, kind of a thing, and giving hints towards that. But I don't think Midgardsormr really spoke too much to it. I didn't feel it anyway.
Things get a little weird with Midgardsormr when you consider, like, okay, so you have all the planets, like other planets on with the source, right? Where he came from a different planet entirely, different star. So what about the source? Because does the source also have those other planets? There's stars in the sky, so obviously
the sky. The sky in the first looks different than our sky. The stars are different colors and stuff.
Well, that's on the source too. There's some like
what I didn't get was that if it was just our planet that was split or the entire universe.
Yeah. Midgardsormr, maybe he didn't come to the first. Like,
yeah, I think he just came to the source. Honestly, that's how it seems to be. But I mean, if he was anywhere else, he's dead now. Unless he can survive the light, because the dragons are completely different here in the first.
You know, I keep thinking about this, and this is probably my ignorance with all of it. They keep calling things like the star, our stars dying, and everything else. Are they referencing an actual star that the planet's going around, or is that supposed to be?
I think it's just the planet.
The star, the planet is the star.
Yeah, I think that's
what I assume. Yeah,
planets have, I guess, life. You know, because like the live stream and all that.
Because the whole planet is a big ball of aether, right? So
it's like a star. It has life, whatever.
That's what I assumed anyway.
That's kind of what I thought too, but it just didn't seem right with the way that I think about a star. So yeah,
no, it threw me through a loop for a while too.
All right, and we'll ask this last question here before we get into the closing bits. Dissidia had the Cloud of Light skin for Cloud of Darkness. And Final Fantasy III had mentions of the Flood of Light with a possibility of having the Cloud of Light as well. what is your opinion of her being a raid boss? Are you guys familiar enough with the Cloud of Light to answer that question?
Nope.
But
Me
sure.
either.
I mean,
Wait, what's the Cloud of Light from? Is that like an actual thing that's existed before?
Well, there is a skin in the Cydia for Cloud of Darkness that was the Cloud of Light, is what
okay.
they're saying. And Final Fantasy III had mentions of the Flood of Light possibly having a Cloud of Light.
I mean,
Okay.
That's new information for me, to be honest with you. I don't really know.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe I can ask a question that we might have better answer for. Let's see. Okay, this is a good one. Was there any specific part of the story you found difficult to avoid talking about?
Just the whole end.
Everything.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot. I mean, talking about Memphilia and then still calling her Memphilia afterwards was kind of awkward for me. Because that doesn't get explained for quite a while.
I think Amarat probably in particular, because it's just such a.
It's so incredible.
That's
Yeah.
the moment where you're like.
That and Tesseline.
Mhm.
Yeah, Tesseline too.
That
Oh,
that
you
whole
like
bit.
her? She's cute. Oh, guess what?
Yeah, I'm like, I'm telling Corey, I'm like, when you go through the story, just let me be in Discord. I just want to be a fly on the wall. No big deal. And he was streaming it, thankfully, at the time, and I was just like, yes, this is what I wanted. I couldn't keep that under wraps for too much longer.
Yeah. It was really difficult for me to not, because as I was going through the story, I didn't want to publicly talk about it on Twitter or anything else. And so it sucked for me for quite a long time overall, the entire story, not to discuss anything. And I'm so glad today has happened because now I can get a lot of stuff off my chest publicly and talk about it with everyone. And I don't know. It's been an awesome ride. And I'm going to say it. Thank God Square Enix knocked us out of the park.
Mhm.
I'm so happy.
Seriously. I really feel like this was make or break for a lot of people playing this game.
Mhm.
Because a lot of people were just so fed up with Stormblood.
Yeah.
And obviously raids still have to happen and raids still have to be good. But as far as story goes, people were just fed up with it and they just wanted something good. And Square Enix really, really delivered.
Yep. I just feel like we're gonna come off this high and be so sad that like our paladin is underpowered or overpowered in like a week or two. And
No way, dude. Tanks are great. That's a different conversation, though.
Love them.
I'm sitting here about to get Gunbreaker to 80. Like, man, why did Corey have to pick Gunbreaker?
I fucking love Gunbreaker so much.
It's gonna be my main off of raids. I thought I liked Dark Knight more, but I just got Gunbreaker up, and I'm like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up here. We've been on for about 2.5 hours. That's pretty good. There's a lot more stuff we could talk about with the story, which is why we are having a second story episode in 2 weeks. This time we're going to bring on Anonymous and Ethis, and we're going to go very deep into the lore and story and stuff that just like way past the basics of what we've been seeing. So if you want to hear more about the story and everything else, just tune in for that show coming up later. You guys have been absolutely amazing. This has felt like a great conversation. Thank you so much for coming over here and helping me. God, I was going to say something disgusting. I guess I won't. I was going to say thank you for helping me release my load here on my,
Anytime, bud.
Anytime.
But before we get off, I do want you guys to all kind of, any last points you want to talk about and kind of any shout outs, any closing remarks that you want to go over before we end the show here. And I'll start again clockwise. I'll start with Drac.
And I think we covered everything. Great to kind of get together with everybody and finally have this release. It really does, like, it's been mounting. And just being like, no spoilers. But as soon as Tuesday hits, I'm going to start talking about
Me too.
everything too.
That's
If you haven't been
in my stream and my Discord is like, when Tuesday hits, you better be done with the story because it's getting talked about.
Yeah, like if you've gotten that far, then no. But yeah, it's very well done. I'm really hoping that they maintain the momentum. Going through the story this whole time, I'm like, this is already really great. How are they going to end it? Like, because like halfway through, we're getting done with the Light Wardens, and then it's just like, but there's got to be more to this. Like, we're not done yet. and then they mounted on top of it with Amarat and everything. And I'm hoping that they continue to do that throughout the rest of the expansion, just continue to build. And I'm excited to see what they have in store for it.
Yeah. Can you imagine if they kept up the story as well as they have throughout the entire expansion lifecycle, and we hit a 8 to 9 months stint before we get any resolution with the next expansion?
I wouldn't be able to take it, man.
Oh, jeez.
I'm so excited just thinking about it.
All right, let me do the shout out here. If you guys want to find Drakanous here, that's how you say it, right? Drakanous?
Drakanous, yeah.
Drakanous, okay. Please follow him at his Twitch channel here. Of course, he's on Twitter, same name, and I believe YouTube, same name.
Drak Gamestein on YouTube.
Okay, there you go. All right, Merri. Last thoughts, shout outs, anything that you want to say?
I don't really have anything as far as like. Well, no, I do. Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers has got to be, in my opinion, you know, my shitty gamer opinion, the absolute best RPG I've played and my favorite game of all time, period. Now, it's Shadowbringers was a absolutely incredible experience for me, and I'm so excited for the future of 14.
All right.
More than I've ever been before. And I've been playing this game for almost 10 years. Nonstop.
Yeah.
So I'm proud of how far it's come.
All right. Where can they find you at, Merri?
Twitch.tv/very_Merri. Same on Twitter and also YouTube.
Okay. And to finish off us, Tate.
Yeah, man. I mean, I'm in the same boat as Merri. Not so much as my favorite RPG, but I think Shadowbringers has definitely become my favorite Final Fantasy game. It's so good. The storytelling is just phenomenal. And that's pretty much it. I'm so excited for Tuesday to see what we get with Raid Story. So excited. It's like 3 days away. I wish I could sleep for 3 days. Other than that, you can find me. My name is GoldenTot everywhere. YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. I do streams daily. My YouTube it's alive for a week out of the month and then dead for like 3 more weeks. Pretty good stuff. Check me out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Tweets. Check that out.
Yeah, lots of tweets about your bowel movements.
I'll have one of those here soon, I promise.
GoldenTot everywhere except for my phone. I got him under Boo Boo Bear there.
Nice.
And I want to reiterate, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. You've all been awesome. It's always a great time to hang out with you. And I'm looking forward to what the next week's going to bring to all of us, seeing Eden and everything else. Thank you, everybody who's come to the channel today, all the viewers, all the people who subbed, all the people who supported the stream in whatever way that you can, even just by watching the show here. Thank you very much, Square Enix, for giving me giveaways for all the audience, and also Kiara for helping me with my emotional support in the background, Blazana for the layout that we do for the show, and Andre Kane for allowing me to use that guitar intro at the beginning and the end of the show. Again, while we will be talking about story again in 2 weeks, we do have a show next week, which is going to be a theory crafting show about Eden. And so we're going to see normal Eden mode, and we're going to actually just bring some people on and discuss what it's going to look like in Savage, what we've learned from it, and what we can kind of expect for it as a difficult raid going forward. And give our opinions, of course, on what the normal mode was too. So look forward to that if you guys want to see that. And without further ado, guys, remember to be good, keep cool, stay frosty, love each other, all those wonderful things. And stick around for the host. Bye, guys. Everybody say bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. I'm waving.
Okay, they can't.